Conklin went. Well, now that we did the cough test. There she is.
I'm here.
About 7 people in the room. You folks are awesome because the pre-show part of the program is boring as sin. It's absolutely boring as sin. watching me click on things and share the program and trip over my own wires and punch my mic and do cool stuff like that. We will be live in just about 2 minutes. We always give the radio audience an extra minute or so to get in. I believe I have properly silenced everything. We will have the phone line open later. You know how the show works. We're just about a minute away. That's going. Just a few ticks. Alrighty. We will be live in 3. I always say that very dramatically, Laura. Say that real dramatically. We will be live in 3, 2, and 1.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
What is Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view?
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you.
It's strictly up to you.
Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you.
It's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 for me. Kennedy, Kennedy, Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare,
You cast your vote for Kennedy and a change that's overdue.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome, 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 welcome from my humble second bedroom here in Bethlehem Landfill Township, a wholly owned subsidiary of Waste Management since their recent purchase of our town council. When a company invests $75,000 in a little township council race, you know they expect something in return. And guess what? They're getting it. What a great investment. Best investment in the country right now is a politician. Remember that. Part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in these United States, on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect, live for the 27th of February, 2022. We're actually live with you for 2 straight weeks. My health has held out long enough for us to be with you for 2 straight weeks. Isn't that something? actually saying something. Got to be honest with you. But it is great to be with you yet again. We are live. In fact, it is 5:04 Eastern time. Let's get through the business end of the program. You are watching and listening to the Kennedy Effect live for the 27th of February, wherever you might be around and across the Facebook universe of the nearly 100 different places that we have shared the program to this Sunday. Feel free to stay where you are. Actually had a week full of a lot of interactions between myself and administrators from other groups, and to every single group, and I mean this because I say it every week, but I mean it because it's true. If it were not for you, every single individual one of you that watches, listens to the show live or on a recording, to every administrator in every group that allows us to share the program to you, to every page that allows us to share the program to you, a sincere, a hearty, and a humble and heartfelt thank you to every single one of you. We could not do the program without you. We appreciate you. We're glad that you allow us to be part of your group, your page, your own individual timeline. However it might be, we're just happy to be here. We could not do the program without you. You can stay in any one of those nearly 100 places that we have shared the program to, or as you can see on the screen, George has up there ably and dutifully and exceptionally reliably, as always. That's why he gets paid the big bucks. It's right there. That other side of information is our home group Facebook page. That is where we will see you. 10 of you in the room right now, which might not sound like a lot, but for a 3 to 4 hour program, it's pretty darn good. And I'll take it. I'll take every single one of you. Come on over in there, join in the comments section. We will see your comments. We will see your questions. Argue with me, yell at me, disagree, agree, say, I have a decent haircut because I did it myself, because it's cheaper. Or tell me how awful they were yesterday, because that was brutal. I'm just about ready to stop watching football. It's really causing me a lot of agita, I gotta be honest with you. That said, to our sisters, brothers, friends, family at hot101.net, recently redesigned, by the way, apps for the Apple, any Apple device in the Apple App Store, a recently redesigned and updated app in the Google Play Store for Android, and of course, as always, any type of device that you might have, you can go to the TuneIn Radio app. Our main home website is our name. It's hot101.net. Over 100,000 people listen to hot101.net regularly around the globe, and we appreciate you as well. That means Australia, New Zealand, throughout the Asian continent, North Africa, South Africa, dotted around the western part of the European continent, and isn't that important this week, up and down South America, Central America, Canada, and of course the Pacific Islands, all around the globe. Over 100,000 of you listening to hot101.net, and we appreciate every single one of you. And of course, our friends and family at TCP, who I think return tomorrow from a well-deserved holiday. You can find us on their global radio station, WTCP, their large video Facebook presence, and of course the Roku channel for TCP, the Culture Professional, a minority-owned business right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in Lancaster. That is a lot of business for me to get to, and my guest has been exceptionally patient waiting for all of it. I actually got a bit of a derogatory comment on last week's show that my introduction takes too long. Well, true, fair, guilty, it does. But we have a lot of people to say thank you to. We have a lot of people to make sure that we mention, and we're very, very lucky that way. Very lucky that way. So that's good. If I didn't have a lot of people to thank, we probably wouldn't have a show after this many years. And coming up on our 4th anniversary, by the way, in April. But let me get to our guest. And I have to say, I've been communicating with her for about 2 or 3 weeks working on this, and we cheated. I gave her the opening question so that she could write us a thesis and soliloquy, which she will now read very, very slowly. And that'll be the 3 hours of the program. Then you don't have to listen to me anymore. I'm kidding, of course, because I never shut up. But I will ask her the opening question. Our guest is Laura Catherine Shadle, because we get all three names when you use several names on Facebook, because I was having trouble tagging you to make sure that you knew about the show announcement, because I kept looking up the last name. It wasn't coming up. I found it. So now I'm throwing all three names at you. It makes you sound more formal and distinguished anyway. So take that. Anyway, our guest is Laura Shadle. She is a staffer for PA State Representative Scott Conklin, but she does a tremendous amount of other work: campaign, advocacy, voter registration, policy, messaging. But also we want to talk to her through the course of our program today just about the life of a person in government. What's day-to-day like? And what was being in government like when you couldn't go to government? As we see ourselves coming out of this pandemic and getting toward the endemic phase, what is life like? What was it like before? How did it change? How is it getting back to normal? We do a lot of heavy topics on this program. We do a lot of issues. We do a lot of policy. We do a lot of down in the dirt politics. But we also like to learn about the human beings that we're talking to. So we're going to ask Laura about things like that as well. But for right now, let me introduce to you Laura Shadle. Laura, welcome to the program.
Hello, Jeff, and everyone else. I'm so glad to be here. So thank you, Jeff, for bringing me on. Like he said, I am Laura Shadle. I currently work for Representative Scott Conklin. He represents the 77th Legislative District in it's parts of Center County. I've done a ton of work here, advocacy and electoral work in just Center County and Central PA in general. This is kind of my forte. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about whatever's on the agenda. So.
Well, the beauty of it is that we don't always have an agenda. I kind of ask the opening question and then we kind of go from there. I actually, I guess most people are pretty cool with that. I get the occasional comment that I talk too much and I don't let the guest talk and it doesn't sound like you're prepared and you don't have a schedule. No, because you're a human being and everyone that comes on this program is a human being. Politics is made up of human beings.
Philosophical with it already.
Right. Yeah, and politics is made up of human beings. Governments were formed by human beings to provide the services that we cannot provide for ourselves. So I think it's interesting just to kind of let a free-flowing, relaxed, but serious conversation evolve. So with that in mind, let me ask you, again, we cheated. I gave you the opening question, but let me ask you the opening question anyway. Who is Laura Shadle and how did you get here?
Despite getting that intro question, I don't know exactly how to answer it. Like, who is Laura Shadle? It's a lot of things. But what I can tell you about my political work, especially like going back over the past decade, I have been involved in either political or some form of activism for over a decade now. I'm turning 30 this spring, which yay, but I got involved in activism and then political work when I was in my mid-teens during the Bush administration. I didn't know why I was angry, but I knew I was angry. I knew things were wrong. And then I educated myself and I figured out why things were wrong, at least at the federal level. And then I was fortunate to meet people who I still work with today, who were local mentors who taught me what the connection was between local government, state government, federal government, and everything in between, and how everything played a role in what I was angry about and how we could make a difference. And so that is something that really stuck with me. So from the minute that I graduated high school, I've been involved with either electoral campaigns or activist efforts, whether it be, groups that were already formed or starting my own groups. I've been doing that work ever since. And I got to a point where I was actually running the county party here in Center County, and winning our helping win our countywide elections. And that's when I jumped from there to working for Scott Conklin, who I've known for a very long time. But yep, that's sort of been the transition. The work has not changed, just different roles.
You said something that actually I think most people are on occasion afraid to admit, either because they think it might be distasteful or they kind of don't want to admit it to themselves. I happen to think that inside politics and inside issue advocacy, anger is a really powerful emotion. It's a very motivating emotion. You tend to act on things when you're pretty ticked off, as opposed to other conditions, whether it's acceptance or apathy or, I kind of think that really sucks, but not enough for me to get up off the couch. What were you angry about? Was there one specific thing, or did you just know things kind of aren't right here?
So I would say, again, it would depend. It would depend on like which year and which degree of what I was jumping into. But no, when I talk about anger, I shouldn't say there's something that somebody I work for who, when I described my initial feelings, when I first started getting involved in my early teens, just knowing that there was injustice and that, take the Iraq War, for example, working, like talking to my parents and doing my own research, even as a kid, and knowing that our government was lying to us, and like not conspiratorial, like that actually happened. They lied to us about why we were going to war. And that was, if you were a child who was interested in that, that's going to shake your entire world. And that really infuriated me. And my boss, one of my bosses who I currently work for now, described that as, "Oh, honey, your first hate." I was like, I guess so, but it was certainly motivating. But no, it wasn't so much that. It's just, I think
that might be why people are afraid to admit it.
Yeah,
Because we tend to think as anger as almost a violent emotion. I'm going to go out and throw rocks and break windows and burn the house down.
and they don't see it
anger
as
can
something
be
righteous.
Right. It's not. Yeah, I agree. Actually, yeah, I think that's a really well said. And thank you for giving me that word to steal, and which I will do in future
No,
programs.
you absolutely should,
But it is, we have to admit to ourselves that it is a motivating emotion. It is. I'm angry about this. Something has to be done about this. And I'm going to get up off the couch and go do it.
Well, and that's exactly where, I certainly have had concerns, as a lifelong Democrat too, where we tend to be on the side of, oh, we're going to lead with love. Love trumps hate. We're going to do this. And that is not even where our base is at. That's not where anybody's at. Because the reality is, when you get to what people, you're going to get that messaging from people who are economically safe, people who are sound, who policy decisions day in, day out do not really, really affect them. And that's the issue. So you are going to, when we talk about anger, that is something I like to translate that in terms of righteousness, because that is where people are at. And that is certainly where I like to bring that back, because that's where I was always at when I got into politics. My reasoning being, for a multitude of reasons, that and this actually ties back to my boss, Scott Conklin. Scott and I have known each other for years. I remember him being, I remember him knocking on my door when I was a kid. He was running for county commissioner and I was a little kid. He's been here in this county that long, and we've talked about issues very candidly. And one of the issues, what we've really come together on is that what brought us both.
I'm sure he loves being reminded of that, by the way.
Oh, he does.
I was that kid when I met you.
Oh no, I remember the car he was driving. Like, it's amazing. But I'm sure he remembers what my mom was wearing when she answered the door. But he had like this cute little yellow car. Amazing. But no, something that we've talked about was a very uniting force between us, and we're close in general. But what brought both of us into politics, ultimately, not politics and activism. He was a labor leader before he got into politics. I was a community organizer before I got into politics, and we are united in this effort to, we acknowledge that there are institutions and individuals who, with power, who bring harm among people, who abuse people systemically or individually. What can we do? What can we do, either as individuals or getting into different kinds of, whether it be politics, anything? What can we do to mitigate that and to stop that? What can we do to stop the abuse and to make things better for people day to day? That is something we've talked about personally, and that's something we work for. I know that's something that Scott's worked for, and that's something that's always been an issue for me. And that's I think that's something we work really hard on. And you don't see enough of that in politics. I mean, certainly we can have more of it, but I'm snapping my fingers.
Well, it's going to happen now because you snapped your fingers.
No, it is.
Yeah. Could you snap your fingers for us to make this my full-time job, advertisers, 4 or 5 hours a day, every day? That'd be great. I start tomorrow. It's interesting because you say that you've known Scott for a long time. I don't pretend in any way, shape, or form that I know him deeply. We know each other a bit. I'm certainly not going to claim best friendship there, but I know him. I know he's a good man, and I think that's something that sadly has been lost a bit too much in politics, is the ability to say, even to the folks that we really don't agree with on nearly anything, the ability to somehow look and say, that's a decent human being there. I really don't fancy anything that person stands for or advocates for, but I know it's coming from a place of sincerity and belief. I actually happen to think that's one of Scott's strengths, and I will get him on this program one of these days. Scott, I'm coming. I will get you on this program. But I want to ask you about that. It seems to me, and this is just a general impression, please, all of you out in radio land and you yourself, Laura, agree or disagree. It seems to me in politics, when we work for someone, we tend to work with them more, and we tend to have more personal connections. Either it's the issues that bind us together, as opposed to like working in an office situation, or being a broker or whatever, where you have a boss, like, yeah, whatever the boss, I don't know what happens to the boss when he leaves the office, that kind of thing. It does seem that political work is a bit more personal. You find that? I would think it would be hard for you to do what you do for someone that you don't like.
No, that's completely right. 100%. And that's, you can certainly see that, like, if you follow me and even my like annoying social media tangents, like I am very close to my boss, and not just Scott, but the people I work with as well. We do a lot of work, not just in district, for for all of our constituents. And by the way, we also do a lot of work for constituents in our neighboring districts too. And what we do in Harrisburg, like we're very, very emotionally invested in all that. And in the same way, like we're emotionally invested in each other while we're doing that work. But no, we really, really do care about each other too, on a personal level. I don't know how we would get through the stresses, because the political climate now, post, I guess you could say 2016, but certainly 2020.
I'd say before that, it goes back into the 90s, but yeah, it started with Nixon, but it obviously went turbocharged in
well, no, Jeff, of course. I'm thinking of like when it became really commonplace for us to get threats.
Mm-hmm. Almost as a matter of course of the day, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we're just
wow, it's 9:30. Nobody threatened my life.
Now we're just kind of like
yeah. I know. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous on face to giggle about it, but I would assume that you must have gotten threatened. And probably continue to do so on a regular basis.
You don't want to know how many I've gotten personally. But because the problem is despite working for Conklin, I've been a political entity in the area for longer. So even when I was working for Conklin, like things would carry over. So when, say, January 6th happened, yeah, I got a lot of threats. And of course, Scott did, and so did every elected official here. And we're in Center County. We're in that weird wonderland where we actually have mostly Democratic electeds at the statewide or at the countywide level. And then Scott's the only the Democratic elected for the state reps, but for now, but
right, we're working on that.
No, we are, but no, that's exactly where all the targeted threats are coming on, and they come at Scott, they come at me, they come at the county commissioners, anybody who has been somebody who has kind of been fighting the alt-right here, for lack of a better term, and doing it well, but because we don't intend to let up.
Yeah, and that's kind of the extra part of it. Like you roll out of bed in the morning and you're a member of the Democratic Party, you're going to get threatened. But there's an extra bit of sauce to it when you succeed. And you've been successful, you'll continue to be successful. You've elected people, you'll continue to do so. So there is an extra set of secret sauce on it when you're successful, then they hate you more. This is very out of chronological order and something I probably should have asked closer to the top of the show. But for folks who are not familiar geographically, topographically with Pennsylvania, where is Center County? Tell me about Center County. Tell me about where you live and where you operate and where you call home. What are the big towns close to it? What's it like? Urban, rural, suburban, tell me about Center County. Tell the folks around the globe, literally around the world, about Center County, Pennsylvania.
So it's really easy because Center County is the most central or center part of Pennsylvania. It is the center county, right in the middle. When you look at, say, an electoral map or anything, right in the middle of Pennsylvania is Center County. The easiest way to explain is it's where Penn State University is. That is our main area, right within that university, that we've got a major university town, and then a lot of towns surround that. Everything pretty much surrounding that is mostly agriculture. There's a ton of stuff going on in Center County, but yes, a lot of our economy does really centralize around Penn State. And yeah, we do have University Park here. So, and that's basically the center part of Center County. So I cannot stress center enough because that's the name and that's the game. So
And it really is. When you look at a map of PA, I mean, it is.
it's like
You could-
literally
yeah.
the center.
Yeah, I mean, no matter the scale, you could literally measure it. It's like 6 inches from the top, 6 inches from the bottom, 10 inches in from each side, and you're pretty much right there. It's about as perfectly placed as you could be. I don't know that you could name it anything else. I think it might be illegal.
If you want to hear a really annoying, like perfect history thing, apparently back before they were considering what the capital was going to be, at least for the state, if not the nation, Aaronsburg, which is in Center County, out in Penns Valley, was considered to be one of the places that before Philadelphia and then DC, Aaronsburg, Pennsylvania was considered to be somewhere that could be the nation's capital, because it was apparently considered close enough to like the center of Pennsylvania.
Nice. We love history. I just learned something. I had no idea. It makes sense. It certainly makes sense, but I had no idea.
Doesn't mean anything, but it's something I know because I'm like a Center County person.
You should. You're supposed to know that stuff about your home. I remember being in when I was in, I think it was 4th grade, is when a whole section of our social studies class was local history, learning about the town you live in and the history of the town that you live in. And I don't know that any of that happens anymore. It was eons ago. I mean, we were still carving into stone tablets when I was in school, but we, and using abacus and so on. I don't know that that's still a part of education, but local history is important. And I think it was in 5th and 6th grade then that we moved into state history, and then you kind of move into your US as you get a little older. 5:31 Eastern time here live on the Kennedy Effect for the 27th of February 2022. Laura Shadle is our guest. We will open up the phone line later in the program. Wherever you might be across the Facebook universe, 100 shares this week or somewhere close to that, I think it was. Somebody will end up telling me because it's right there on the post, although I don't have the post in front of me at the moment because I'm monitoring the show looking for your comments and questions. Wherever you might be in any of those groups. First off, to every group and every individual, we thank you for allowing us to be part of your little corner of the Facebook world. Thank you. You can share this program as well if you have friends, family that you think are like-minded, or perhaps even more importantly, if they are not. You are welcome to share this program out. It is how the program continues to evolve, continues to survive. If you were not there watching and listening, we would not be here. Hot101.net, our name is our web address. Brand new redesigned apps in the Apple App Store and in the Google Play Store for Android. And of course, you can always go to TuneIn Radio. Go to the search bar and search for Hot101.net. And our friends and family at TCP, the Cultured Professional and minority-owned business. Really important to say that. In our own home commonwealth in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I would say that both, I take no small measure. I don't pat myself on the back for this. Instead, I am honored by it. This guy is about as pale and translucent as you can possibly imagine. If I didn't have the studio lights arranged the way they were, you would be able to see straight through me. I would pretty much disappear. And yet my show is I think a real solid part of both Hot101.net and TCP, minority-owned businesses and largely minority. Well, TCP is entirely minority operated, and Hot101 is damn close to it. And that we're very, very proud of that. And I think it speaks a lot to actually both of those organizations to let a guy like me on who doesn't look like everybody else. And that's pretty fun. and it's pretty exciting, and it means a lot. It truly, truly means a lot. We're very, very proud of it. And we will open up the phone lines later in the program. We will be with you again live next week. We will talk to you a little bit about that later. I want to ask you, Laura, why are you a Democrat? Why did you decide? Maybe it happened when that first pang of anger grew up inside of you, but why the Democratic Party?
No, that's easy for me. In the modern era, understanding where the parties were at, even before knowing where political parties were at, I knew where my values were at. And that really came down to reducing suffering, reducing harm, and really taking care of people, and just making, I know, especially in politics, it seems more and more naive, but just making the world a more livable place for people. And that is something that rang true for me. When I was growing up, I saw the Democratic Party doing that. Whether or not I felt that they were doing it strongly enough, or whether I needed to get involved and maybe push things ahead, like that's, again, like any activist should. That should be a motivating force for anybody. But that I always saw opportunity, at least with the current Democratic Party and with the current political alignment, that we had enough in common that we could work towards these goals, and that if we needed to get the right people elected and then do the right work in the streets, that made enough sense to me. And that is something that I've always held true, both doing community activism and electoral activism and getting people elected. I think that's a uniting principle. That's something that's always driven me. And it's shown results.
You mentioned that you'll be turning 30 soon, which means that you have only ever known a United States post Nixon, Reagan, and in fact, for you, the first George W. Bush, kind of the, it's 2022. You would have been 8 years old when, or the first George H.W. Bush, the first George Bush presidency. You would have been a whopping, 8 years old when W was selected by the Supreme Court in the onset of the Karl Rove era in politics. You would have been too young to remember the Newt Gingrich era of politics. You weren't even born. You weren't even born yet when Nixon's chief of staff said that we can't arrest students for protesting against the war, but we can arrest them for drugs, and we can't arrest people of color for being people of color, but we can arrest them for drugs. And so we did. When you've only known a country, especially as you were younger, now obviously you're educated, you can open a history book. Well, I just dated myself. Open a history book. You can use the Google machine and find things out. But when you're growing up and you only know, yeah, exactly, more computing power in your hand than the entire fleet of shuttlecraft, by the way, all 5 shuttles. And you've only known a country after Reagan. I'm kind of asking the same question again, but how do you decide it's this party that I agree with? So many of your contemporaries, I would imagine, got sucked into the Reagan era and got sucked into we're a group of rugged individuals and corporations are great and greed is good.
So
how do you go the other way?
I love to talk about this because my parents, at their age, they were coming of age, right? Like late, well, especially my dad would have been coming like late 70s, early 80s, right? And then my mom a few years after that. I'm saying this for a reason, because they raised me to be completely against all of this. But they came of age right when all of this was hot, right when the Reagan Revolution was happening. And all of that was happening, that cultural revolution was happening, that greed is good, that materialism trumps all. That Donald Trump was a big deal then, which he became a big deal, a little bit after that. But no, that is something. There was always something about that, about that culture that was wrong, that was a disease. It was not something that, it's not like everyone bought into the revolution. And it was a revolution. It was just a really bad one. And my parents certainly never got into that. And what they actually did, so I was born in the early 90s, and what they actually raised me on was, and I'm going to kind of give this out to, and not to give parenting advice. I'm not like the person to give parenting advice to, but my parents raised me on Pete Seeger's Rainbow Quest. If anyone knows what that is. Are you familiar with that?
I know about it. I'm not the hugest Pete Seeger guy, but I do. So I do consider that era of music, the Joan Baez, Pete Seeger, Simon and Garfunkel's, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, the great protest music of the late 60s.
What I can tell you, it wasn't even just protest music. Pete Seeger, so definitely some of it was, Pete Seeger, but he had a pretty standard like cable show where he would have different musicians and artists on every week, and many of them did happen to be protest musicians. But
that was the era.
But very much it was very much packaged in a way that you could present to children, and it's the same way that Tom Paxton did What Did You Learn in School Today? They were very smart about that. It's the same way that Peter, Paul, and Mary repackaged all of their protest music to be targeted towards children, because that was a response. I'm definitely going into my own tangent now, but
that's why we're here. The show is built on tangents.
Yeah, but
trees have many branches.
Right, but no, these artists and these musicians, what they did was they started repackaging things into ways that would really affect the young people. And by young people, we mean like babies, like children, who could actually listen to these messages, when we knew that even anybody above that were getting sucked into different forms of propaganda. I think that is something that is recycled through the generations. I think right now the most effective means of communication is memes. But
it's funny though, because I've had this discussion with Kristen. I've had it with other folks. And it is not my style of music, which makes it all the more wonderful and inclusive that I'm part of Hot 101, because hip hop just isn't my thing. It just isn't. And I know there's a lot of folks at Hot 101 who are giving me a side eye right now, but it just kind of isn't my thing. I don't quite get it. I don't quite enjoy it. It's actually one of the beauties of music, is that it is so subjective, but I'm told that that's where the real great protest music, even if there is any of this current time, is coming from. So I may very well be missing it, but I'm probably missing it. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't tend to enjoy it. But like I said, that's one of the beauties of music, is that we all have, it's very subjective. We like what we like, and God bless the human condition, that there are so many different kinds of music for people to enjoy. But I'm told that that's where the majority of the protest music is coming from, but isn't it a shame? I always do sit back and kind of think to myself that the well, hip hop is mainstream now, but I guess the other mainstreams, there doesn't seem to be that just super cool. I hear Pete Seeger come up on the radio and it makes me think about this thing, or that I should learn more about this other thing. I guess I'm missing it, and I'm sure folks in the chat will tell me if I'm missing it. But isn't it a shame that there isn't the same level of protest music as there was back in the late 60s? I mean, there was a musical scene there that it engaged an entire generation of college kids to get involved. I don't feel like that exists now. Or am I an old guy talking here and I'm just tuned out?
You're not an old guy. It's just that the the world of music, and obviously within a ever-changing kind of capitalistic musical system, it's changed. So when back in the 60s and 70s, when you had record labels who would sign people like David Bowie or Bob Dylan, and like these would be your main artists, like that's just not that's not what the case is. Like with everything rapidly evolving, we have so many different artists who are coming out, who are putting out their own albums, independently producing through different mediums that a lot of record labels frankly didn't even know existed at the time that they were doing it, which is awesome. And so much of that is happening at once. So I can name, like, if you want to talk about like a political input, I know of a number of artists who were doing this in the 2000s, like during the Bush administration, who, maybe still had the same cred that they do now. But I'm thinking like Dead Prez, Bright Eyes was doing some of it. But Paranormal, well, Bright Eyes is folk, but like Dead Prez, hip hop, Paranormal, hip hop, Flowbots, hip hop. Like they were all putting out a bunch of, and there were a ton of other people who were putting out, Immortal Technique was doing everything.
That's the one I've heard of. I'm really
Tech
really dating myself.
Tech, like, okay, yeah. So
I feel like
I listened
Green
to Tech when I was in middle school.
Oh well, yeah.
So now I'm dating all of us, because he sampled I Got No Strings from
Okay.
What was it?
Well, it was a Disney movie.
It was Pinocchio.
Yeah.
He sampled Pinocchio, I Got No Strings, wrote a song about freedom of speech, and called out Fox News during the height of the Bush era. And that was my favorite song when I was in middle school. So there's a lot of hip hop that you would probably like, Jeff.
That's possible. And maybe I need to just open up my...
Yeah, we're going to have a follow-up.
Open up my ears a little more and open up my mind a little more. I tend to, obviously I listen to the most radio when I'm in the car, and it tends to be, I tend to lead toward the political talk, and then you kind of get, you get in your own bubble. Every now and then I will just I need this particular commute to just be music and whatever it might be. And I get a little too, I'm actually way too attached to my favorites button.
I get it. I found the basics of Steely Dan just to not have a panic attack every day before I start the workday.
The Jeep, even though mine is an older Jeep now, has I can save songs off of the Sirius XM, and it will tell me when they're playing, and I can switch to them very quickly. And it's kind of an old, kind of a backdoor way of having an iPod shuffle, which I just dated myself again.
No, I still
I
have
see
one.
the favorites. I see the favorites come up, and I can tap on it, and there's the list, and I can pick what I want to listen to, and it's the same, probably 300 songs over and over and over
Jeff,
again.
I can tell
I get a
you-
little too used to my favorites button.
Yeah,
need
I
to
can
open
tell you,
up-
I literally showed up, I was doing organizing work. I showed up to a Penn State College Democrats meeting. And I had a 2012 iPod shuffle just on me. And
That would have been one of the last ones too, wouldn't it?
no, I still have one. I'm like,
I know, but it would have been,
I still
yeah.
have one. And
it still
I love
works.
it. And one of the kids, like one of my babies comes up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, you're so retro." And I was like, okay. Again, I'm not even 30 yet. So I'm, when I turn 30 this spring, like it's all over for
Well, we make
all of us, by the way.
Oh, I want to know when that party is, by the way. I may
Oh,
drive
you're,
to center for that.
March. So no, I'll message you.
Okay.
You're
Yeah, you don't want to announce that, I don't think.
you better be there, Jeff.
But we make, if it's a weekend, I will try.
It is.
The
It's a
state
Sun-
college, the state college area, even from here in the Lehigh Valley, is a good hike. It's like a almost 3 hour hike, I think. From
No,
here.
I got family out there. You have to come. I'm
But-
going to make sure you.
Kristen and I make fun of ourselves occasionally, that, you young whippersnappers, you think you have it so easy. Well, our cell phones, we had to open them. We had to flip them open. We had to flip them open. You kids think you got it so easy. You're so complaining about your 900 TV channels and your, oh yeah, well, we feel so old sometimes. It's so stuff I can't do. That's why George is here. He can, our tech sessions are George telling me, please don't throw the computer across the room. We can get it to work, relax. And I don't know how to use these things. But let me ask you about, because you are the age that you are still connected, and where you live, you're still connected to the college campus. Do you believe that is there a heightened awareness of politics, of issues, of policy, of advocacy, even from a decade ago when you were still in school itself? Or is it fading? Is it stronger? College campuses historically in this country have always been incubators of political activism, from the suffrage movement all the way through. But where do you see your contemporaries who are in university now?
So strong. I have known, so again, I graduated high school around like 2010. So the rise of the Tea Party era, when I was very politically in the know and active, and it was a weird thing to be that. And I've been pissed about it ever since. But that has really changed, remarkably, like amongst the generation. We're not dealing with the same generations now. Like whatever we're calling this new generation, Gen Z, they're pretty like.
I don't know what we do when we're out of letters. I don't know what we do now.
No, it's Gen Z.
I don't know what the next generation is going to be. Are we
It's Z.
recycling and going back to A? I don't know what we're doing.
No, I think it's Z and whatever else.
Yeah, I don't know what's
on there, just kind of like but
Yeah.
But no,
Generation.
I think they would agree with that characterization.
Generation. Holy crap! Get me out of here.
Yeah. But no. No, I work with that. My youngest sister is probably that generation, and so no, they're insanely like in tune with everything. But it's really just they're very action oriented, being like, look, what can we do? What do we have to do? Also, what what's actually going on? Are there any like ulterior, say, causes, things going on? Like there, I guess I think to a large extent, this is like the Google age too, where it's not just, oh, we're gonna like back a certain candidate. It's just, okay, people are running. All right, we dig that we're probably in line with the Democratic candidate. That makes sense, but also what's going on with them, what's going on broadly. That is what I've experienced working with that age group when it comes to just electoral organizing.
And I think that even though they're experiencing it, I mean, I experienced it. I couldn't finish college because Mr. Reagan said, "You borrowed enough money, kid. You're not allowed to get any more." So even in the late 80s, early 90s, I had to leave college and had debt. Kristen still carries college debt. I don't know that it's,
So do all of us.
yeah, but I don't know that it's that the students didn't realize that they were leaving school with debt. Of course they knew that, but it does seem to me that they're more hyper aware of it now.
Yes.
That they can probably quote you from graduation day what their debt load is, what the interest rate is, how much they're paying, how many years they'll be paying just against the interest before they ever get to the principal, much like a mortgage. I think we all knew that we had debt when we left school, but I don't think it was so tactile to us as it is to the current generation. I mean, it's an easy number one topic for folks to get on board with.
Well, that, and I think even for just young millennials, like my age group, we were real suckers for this. We fully bought into the idea that no matter how much money you had to borrow or whatever you had to do to get this education, regardless of what the degree was for, that this would somehow pay off, which was by and large not the case. I mean, if we're being honest, was not the case for most people. And that's where we're seeing a lot of these discrepancies, like within the job market, wage issues, anything like that. And I think, yes, I would say the people coming up now and the younger people coming up now in universities, like they are certainly more attuned and understanding where this lies. They're not falling for it anymore. Even when it just comes to, and it's wild to put it this way, but they're actually communicating effectively through meme culture, if that makes sense.
I use them all the time. I happen to
Well,
think
no, so do I, but
yeah,
I don't want to knock any of that, because so many people will be like, oh, these kids don't know what they're saying, they're just sharing internet memes and they're on TikTok. And it's when they're actually talking about the economy and what they're going through personally, it adds up. When I look at things, when I work in a legislator's office, and when I'm trying to help people day by day, or even trying to do things to help myself, like, I mean, I'm a millennial, like I have my own hardships, and I see like this meme stuff going around, like it's a joke, but it's actually, there's a lot of truth to it, what they're saying. It really does make sense. We shouldn't necessarily just write off what Gen Z is saying, because they tend to be on point with more than we'd like to admit, is how I would phrase it.
Kristen, who is downstairs, even though the computer's set up for her, she's downstairs, mentions that, I want to read this right. It's her opinion, Laura. I'd like to know what you think. College students today, generally, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, have come to the realization that you're not going to earn back your student loan money in salary. Would that be something that you think you might agree with, that even though students continue to take the loans because they have to, it's the only way to pay, they no longer seem to fall for the falsehood that, you'll make it back in your salary when you graduate, because you're probably not going to.
I agree.
And Randall, one of our we have a lot of great listeners. If there's one more loyal than Randall, I haven't met him yet. I'm lucky because when I graduated from Warren Wilson College in 1975, I only had $4,000 of student debt. Now, of course, inflation adjusted dollars, that was a hefty total for 1975. I mean, my parents bought my house that my mother still lives in 1969, about 3 weeks after I was born, for $19,000. And if the town wasn't such complete, well, I don't need to go trashing the town at this moment. It would probably be worth more than it even is now. But yeah, even with inflation adjusted dollars, $4,000's not too much. But we also have to remember there was no student debt problem. For all intent and purpose, there was no student debt problem before the Reagan era. None. College in California, at least up to your associates, was I think even the bachelor's, a 4-year college in the California higher education system was free. It was free for the residents of California. Reagan ended all that because he didn't like the fact that they protested against him. The original snowflake, Reagan himself. It is 6 p.m. Eastern time here on The Kennedy Effect, and we are live for the 27th of February, 2022. Wherever you might be across the Facebook universe, the 100-ish, I haven't checked actually how many shares it was. I think it's in the 100 range. We were well over 90. Somebody will tell me. So I thought somebody would tell me before. They didn't tell me. You stay there, enjoy whatever group you're in, and thank you to every administrator of every single group, every member of those groups that listens, watches our show in that particular group. There are literally about 80 of them. Of the 100 places that we share, probably about 80 of them are different groups. You can stay there. Please enjoy the show right where you are. The only problem is, I do get this occasionally during the week. It does filter through to me. I sent you a comment and you ignored me, and well, no, not exactly. If you are watching on the New Deal Democrats, the AOC progressives, the Lehigh Valley Young Democrats page, the Lehigh Valley Progressive Network, the Lycoming County progressives, by the way, we're out in there, Montgomery County Democrats. If you are commenting or asking questions on inside that group, I don't see them, and I certainly don't see them in real time. I might stumble upon them later in the week. You are not being ignored. We want to hear from you. If you want to interact with us in real time live right now at 6:02, come to our home group Facebook page. It's right on the screen there. George has it. That other side of information. That's where I will see your comments and questions. Hot101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, recently updated and redesigned apps with all sorts of new graphics, information on the music that you're listening to, and the DJs that are bringing it to you. And by the way, none from me because I was late. I didn't do my homework, and I did not send a picture to to DJ Lex and DJ Earl to get my face up on the app. I'm late with that. But then again, that's why this is a face for radio. You probably don't want to see that on your app. Anyway, but brand new redesigned apps for Apple devices at the Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and for any device, the TuneIn Radio app. And I also forgot for the entire first hour of the program to play America's new favorite game show. You can now tell Alexa to play hot101.net. One of these days, somebody's going to say to me, you triggered my Alexa, and I listened to your show. So I literally try to trigger Alexa every time I say it. You can say, hey, Alexa, play hot101.net. net. And of course, TCP, the culture professional from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, right here in our own home Commonwealth. They are internet radio outlet as well, WTCP, their large Facebook footprint, and their Roku channel. And we will open the phone line later in the program. I promise. If you miss any of this program live, go to our YouTube channel, also called That Other Side of Information. You can find all of our episodes right there, recorded for you from day one straight up until tonight's program. George will have that up later tonight, and if not tonight, probably tomorrow. You can find everything there, all of our recorded episodes. I know it's a long program sometimes, so you can listen to us. You can catch us on the recorded version and take it in bits. It's a long program. I get it. It happens sometimes. I wanted to say comment from Christy Murphy Moore. Millennial family here. Number one, I was told some of my debt would be paid by teaching in a Title I school. I was denied because it wasn't funded. And two, we all imagined we'd be paid wages that would allow us to pay back loans and get ahead. It was a lie. Our salaries do not reflect that. We will be paying off college loans into our 50s. I would say, Christy, 50s if you are lucky. Approaching two. Yes, I'm right. I'm checking myself in my own head. I left my own program for a second. We're approaching $2 trillion in student debt. And if you're making 35,000, 40,000, 50, and you take $500, $400, $500, $300,000 a month straight off the top for student debt, it's a big deal. It's the thing that keeps you from a new car, keeps you from a house, might even keep you from something, dare I say, probably not the best choice of words, dare I say a little more simple, like a new washer and dryer or a dishwasher, or replacing that fridge, or when the put solar panels on the house, or it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Our guest is Laura Shadle. She's been awesome because she just is awesome, and she's been awesome for the entire first hour, and I have no doubt that she will continue to do so. So let's continue with the program. I want to ask you about a debate that I have with a lot of my friends here in the Valley, especially. It's a bit nuanced. It's a bit subtle. I do think some of them take it somewhat as an insult, but I don't mean it that way. I'm asking you because you've done both and continue to do both. What is the difference in your mind between politics and activism?
Okay, so the difference is actually presentation. There shouldn't be a difference either way. When activism should come first, that should come from your heart. When you really care about a cause and you want to work towards a cause, that's what should drive you before anything. But when it's something that has to be done and manufactured through political means, through anything like that, to actually achieve results, you have to get political about it. Whether that be getting the right person elected at your local board or whatever, you have to get political. So politics becomes a dirty word there, but that's where we have to actually separate and acknowledge like what it means to be doing advocacy and policy or political work, how they're intertwined.
Let me, at the risk of really angering some activists, and I've certainly done
no,
this
please
before.
Do it because it gets intertwined to me.
Well,
like, this goes back to my whole history.
Well, and I very well might anger some activists because, and again, I've done it before. It seems to me all too often Look, in a country of 330 million people, you can't paint anything with a broad brush. There are very few yeses and nos, ones and zeros, blacks and whites, ups and downs. There's so many gray areas in a country this complex and this diverse. What it seems to me, though, is that activism is a little too quick and interested, and seems to make or feel that they make their bona fides by hurling the Molotov cocktails at the building and burning it down. It is sometimes lacking answers.
Sometimes.
Activism brings a very important voice, and very, very important. They start conversations. I never think that they don't. But those loud actions, those protests, those marches, they bring voice, they bring attention to issues. But the activism side of things sometimes can lack an answer. This is a huge problem. We have to do something about it. What? Oh, well, we don't know about that. We're just angry about it. It's politics where the answers get done.
I can
And
give you the perfect answer to this.
Please.
So before the Me Too movement, remember Me Too, that really hit off like late 2017 through 2018. As you know, we all jumped on that. We all got on that hashtag. So I was actually doing a lot of that advocacy work in the area of Penn State without a hashtag much like longer before that. And it was pretty dangerous. I mean, we had people, we had serious threats against me personally, like people showing up, like people threatening to show up, men mostly, threatening to show up with shotguns at my house, things like that. Because it wasn't really, aside from it's on us, it wasn't really a national movement yet. But it did become that after Me Too, but it took a few years. But what I can say is that when you ask, like, is there anything that's really coming up, like when we have these hashtags, when we do something, when we have some kind of movement like that, I don't know. I don't know how much of a movement what really transpires from a certain movement, because there are certain things that it doesn't really do anything. It just goes to the wayside. But then there are things that
I don't in any way think that activism accomplishes nothing. Again, I think it's an exceptionally important voice. It's exceptionally
I think it's really critical to hone in on what really has, what has input, and what's actually doing something, and what we can really hone in on, when we're already doing work in the streets and something manifests as a hashtag, how can we corroborate that? That's something that's been very critical to me as somebody who has done the work in the streets. We need to see that solidarity that. I'm not entirely sure how to put that.
Isn't it important for the folks that are in the streets, that are so passionate or angry or fill in the blank for the proper word that maybe I'm not coming to me right now?
Wouldn't be the word. It would be the passionate. It would be the people who. It wouldn't be angry. It would be the people who are directly experiencing.
Isn't it? Don't we need a bit more of those folks then? Again, rather than standing outside the fence and throwing rocks at the process, to get in and be part of the process.
Yes, no, I agree. And again, that would be people like me. And there are people like me who are involved and who are doing the work. so it's not just me as like a floating head here.
Right.
Like there are a lot of people, I speak for a lot of people here who are doing incredible work, who maybe choose not to speak on a podcast, but are planning a ton of other things and are doing a ton of work. I think that's really critical. And I think it should be acknowledged. It's just, we can't acknowledge everything in one go, in one podcast.
Somebody does not sound happy there in the background.
Oh my God, are you here? So I am, okay. I'm actually babysitting my sister's dog.
Well, he doesn't have, look, my cats have been on this program.
See, my
because
cats are
sometimes they
fine.
will-
My cat is fine. It's my sister's dog who is.
So we've had
Thank
dogs. I love seeing the dogs and the cats. It's life. We're doing this from our homes. If the dog needs to lay at your feet or wants to sit on your
No,
lap, I could
he's
care
fine.
less.
He's just being bad.
I could care less. It makes nothing. Truly, it makes no. I think we get a little too uptight about that sometimes in this pandemic Zoom world. We think that we have to be corporate and buttoned up and stuff. I'm in my spare bedroom, which is no longer a spare bedroom. It's now a sea of. It looks like a Radio Shack threw up in here. Is basically what it looks like. When the cats come in and start screaming, there's not much I can do about it. They live here too. But I just. When do you think that has to happen? Do you think that happens to different people at different points in their life? I mean, can a 50-something, if I was not involved, can a 50-something like me still turn from couch to activism to political figure? Or is that something that has to be born in your formative years? Or is it never too late to jump in the pool?
No, it's never too late. Nope. No, it's not.
One
I
of the hats that I wear a lot of hats. I should be bald. I wear so many hats.
I wear a lot of hats too. No,
But-
well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Like, again, one of the reasons I'm really, really effective, some of the work that I do, like a lot of the work that I've done, I'm the reason that Center County flipped from Republican to Democrat. Like, we were very meticulous about that. There's still a lot of Republican area, and that's not going to stay the same way. Like, we're still very much at risk when we come up, against like our county elections next year. What I would say is, actually, no, I think it would be wise to open up to to any questions now.
Well, let me ask
because
you.
I would like to see, because honestly, I think we've done the work here. I think we know what we have to do to continue progress here, but I would like to talk to anybody and
While I will put up the phone number and I will open up the line. Let me ask you about this though. To the activists that you continue to work with, how difficult is it to get the message to them? Look, our party is not perfect.
Nope.
In fact, in some occasions, it is far, far from it. And the party in this Commonwealth is really far from perfect. The party structure, and you're part of that party structure. I'm going to run to be part of that party structure to make it better.
Are you running for state?
That is the plan.
In Lehigh?
Northampton.
Okay.
I tend to go where I'm least wanted, and that is certainly one of the places that I am not wanted.
Oh my God.
I will go. So that is why I will go there.
All people circulate for. I have family in your area.
Yeah, well, the petition thing is going to be something I'm going to hate doing it, but it's part of
I know, because we don't have dates yet. Because
no, we sure don't.
Delco did a whole thing.
We sure don't, and we don't have
Know
dates,
until
and
tomorrow.
we can't even download forms, and we don't know if it's going to be a shorter amount of time, and will they adjust the number of signatures needed? Probably not.
Probably
All
never,
that fun
right?
stuff. But I actually don't, but I will get to that. How do you tell the activist without trying to make it sound like you're trying to shoehorn them into something? How do you tell the activist that this is the only place that's going to help you? The Democratic Party is far from perfect, but it is the only functioning political party left in this country. How do you tell the activist, you may not be happy with my party, but we're the only place that's going to help you?
Oh, here's what I'll say. I'm not going to tell people, I'm not going to tell activists or anybody that this is the only place that's going to help you, because it's not. What you do need is to follow what's happening within the Democratic Party, because as of right now, we exist within a two-party structure. So know people who are working within those party structures. And the more local you get, the more that you know what's happening within your local and statewide party, which means you really know what's going on statewide. Because I guarantee you, like, I'm involved statewide, I communicate that to activists. But what really matters is that we are able to communicate that to activists and what's going on the ground, at the ground level, and that we're making sure that these issues, any issues that we have, are being translated to the statewide level. And that actually does come through.
But that's exactly my point, though. It is the larger, if not almost the entirety of the activist community, is not getting a hearing. They're not getting relief from Republicans. They're not.
Not from Republicans. They are.
That's why I'm trying to say that this is the only place, from a legislative, from a policy, from a leadership standpoint, that they're going to get any help, despite the fact that the Democratic Party is not perfect, and we're not.
No, you're exactly right, Jeff. No, I can only reiterate that for Democrats and for
Right.
frustrations on the left, that, and I've made this very clear. I work with the left. God, I am left. Like, I literally am the left. No, I mean, you understand.
I do. That's what I'm trying to say, is that we're there are disaffected progressives out there who think that somehow they're not doing a 180, they're doing a 360, and they're somehow ending up over in the libertarian side of things.
Yep.
It's not going to help you.
Well, and so I've had that before. I've had that before too, where I've had that conversation.
It's maddening, is what it is. It's
in person with voters, where I was just like, I think I'm more left wing than you. It's just if we actually had to act this out, like, you know what I mean?
Well, is it pragmatism? Is that maybe the difference between activism and politics? Pragmatism?
No, because again, when we come to pragmatism, like, we would take somebody like my boss, Scott Conklin, who maybe say had to throw certain votes years ago because this was a conservative area. Like, when he first ran, he flipped a Republican seat. So he threw a few votes here and then, but like he never necessarily felt that way or voted or wanted to vote that way. But
no, he voted for, he arguably did what representatives are supposed to do and voted.
Well, no, yes.
Voted how the plurality of his district said.
Yes. And so like his first, well, no, because I guarantee you, like, if someone were to try to challenge him now, like within the district, they would say, oh, he voted for this in 2010. They'd be like, oh, he voted for this thing. And it's like, no, like, that's where the district was. And he didn't believe in it then. But again, that's where you understand like the nuance of representing people and
Right. And
all
maybe
that good stuff.
maybe I had a bad choice of words with pragmatism, but I do think it is nuance. It is nuance. It's the political arena where things get done, whether we like
Right.
it or not. I happen to love it. I came out of the womb like this, but we
Well, no, I feel the exact same way, and I say that as a hardcore progressive woman. Like,
well, let me ask you that. What does progressivism mean to you? How do you define it?
well, no. So for progressivism in any means, like, I would say it means getting the most results, most progressive results, the most results that help the most people.
Do you consider, as I do, and God knows you don't have to agree, I consider progressivism, I don't actually always use the word as much anymore. I tend to try to describe myself as a New Deal Democrat, as a Kennedy
Yes.
Democrat, the Great
So I actually
Society,
do too.
solar panels on the roof of President Carter.
Right.
Isn't the progressive movement, the progressive policies that Bernie Sanders was told he was nuts for in 2016 that are now mainstream policies, they're really just the history of the Democratic Party, aren't they?
Nope. What Bernie has advocated for is literally textbook.
New Deal.
It's
Yeah.
and it's actually like, this is what's wild. And when I hang out with I talk to some of my friends like locally who are labor leaders, like they're like,
Jeez.
some of them are really good at messaging, and they're like, if we actually get back to the New Deal messaging of just what they were doing, like what they were presenting with these programs, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, like they would be on board with these programs, and they're fucking right. I mean, sorry if I'm swearing, but like, but that's exactly right. That's exactly right. My little brother is he is working in a factory in Northern Virginia, and I have a friend who is a union labor worker here who is advising him on how to unionize his workers. And like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's like we have to tiptoe around what seems to be like, oh, democratic messaging, but everyone's talking union.
Well, I want to let me take host privilege. Why I ask you that, because it's an argument that I don't think we explain much, and it is one of the it's one of the strengths and weaknesses of the Democratic Party all at the same time, is that we can't put everything on a bumper sticker. The side opposite us can put the most ridiculous things and fit them on a bumper sticker or a hat or a t-shirt. We don't do that because we actually understand facts and figures and science and data and history. It seems to me that one of the beauties of progressivism, one of the beauties of being a New Deal Democrat, and something that we don't explain, I think, enough, even to people in our own party, which is something I know I'm going to be doing in the next couple of months, is standing there, and when someone in my own party says to me, well, you're a progressive, aren't you? Yes, but let's examine what that is. So much of what progressives hold up as their values, we've done it already. It's the beauty of the progressive movement, is that we've done it. It's in our history. We've done this. The brilliance, the absolute political brilliance of the Green New Deal is not the green part. It's the New Deal part. We've done it before. Whereas the New Deal solved the Republican Great Depression of the 20s and 30s, the Green New Deal will solve the problem of our literal extinction and drive a brand new economy as we try to save the only planet we have to live on. You want to call that progressive? You think that's derogatory? It's our own history. We've done this before. These programs have worked. The New Deal saved not just the American economy, it ended up saving the global economy from a global Great Depression. Boris Johnson, the conservative prime minister of the UK, and how he is still prime minister is probably a topic for another show, said to get the UK out of COVID, we're going to take New Deal style policies. We've done this before. We know it works. It's not shouldn't that be way more of an advantage for us than we make it? Do you think that history should be that should be an advantage for us, shouldn't it? 6:30, let's open up the phone lines. Hot101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio app, that other side of information on Facebook and TCP, and of course, YouTube, Instagram. I'm forgetting the rest. Twitter, Patreon, TikTok, all of it. I remembered to do a TikTok today, folks. It's boring as sin. That's what we do it for. Phone lines are open, 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. You can talk to me. You can talk to Laura. I would talk to Laura because I'm here every week. 267-227-9189. Remember, let me just quickly remind you, we use a very simple, free computer program, Google Voice. We can take one phone call at a time. If you call and it rings and you get voicemail, or I don't think you get a busy signal on Google Voice, but if you call Randall, I see Randall tried to call and he hung up on me because I talked while I answered his call. I think I hope I didn't click anything by mistake. If I did, Randall, I apologize. We can take one call at a time. Hang in there. If you do try to call while someone else is on the phone line, I don't think you get a busy signal. I think it just keeps ringing. We will see you. We will get to you. Keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. I promise. We love callers. We love interaction. It's what we're here for. We're not here to lecture you. So please hang in there. Give us a call, 267-227-9189. Randall, happy Sunday. Happy end of February. Welcome to the program. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine, Jeff. And I'm enjoying your guests this week very much, as usual. It's good to see millennium activists and also a millennium that's into politics. I've got 3 millennium daughters, a little older than she is, and they vote every primary, they vote every general election, but with children and husband and wives working, they just don't have the time to put in for activism or to put in going out and get signatures on petitions to get on a ballot, et cetera, et cetera. So I really appreciate any millennium that's totally involved.
Will you be, while I have you, let me ask you, will you be standing for re-election for your for the various, I think you're on your municipal and your county committee in Delaware County, if I'm remembering correctly?
Well, yeah, I'm running in my precinct as Democratic committee again here in Brookhaven Borough in Delaware County.
And are you on the county committee as well? Any precinct person is on the county?
Any elected committee person
Gotcha.
is also automatically elected to their county committee to be able to vote for endorsement, policy, et cetera, at that level.
Sounds good. Do you have a question for Laura?
I really don't. I've been enjoying the answers, and I really enjoyed the feedback between yourselves on what a progressive is. Yeah, I'm a 69-year-old progressive. I've called myself a liberal most of my life, but I started calling myself progressive at the beginning of this century. And yeah, I got involved actively in high school and college against the war, protesting my county courthouse in Washington, D.C., joining a group of Vietnam vets that went to the small college I attended. And then the things moved on. It got up to Reagan's time period.
Yep.
And we had TMI.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was at Washington. The next summer after that, I was out in California, where one of my sisters were living then. And I went to the Diablo Canyon protests out there that they shut down. It was like $3 billion invested. They shut it down. Why? Because Diablo Canyon was built on a major fault line they discovered after they built.
Right. Yeah, they built a nuclear plant on a fault line. Right.
Yep. And as far as environmental, I went to my senior year in the spring of 1970. I went to the first Earth Day, which was in Philadelphia at Fairmont Park. Allen Ginsberg, the poet, read his original poem that day. It doesn't mean shit to a tree. Yeah, so we just got to keep on the ball. The Republicans have no real message other than counterculture, and they seem to be winning that. I'm sorry to say.
And let's think of something. You mentioned something. You kind of said it in passing, but it's very, very important to remember. Republicans had to literally take a vote at their national convention to have no platform. Let's think about that.
There was no platform in 2020. You're correct.
But they didn't. Well, technically what they voted to do in 2020 was just take whatever the last platform was and keep it. But they certainly didn't run on a platform. You are correct. They have now actually voted at their last national convention to have no formal official party platform, which means that at least in a formal sense, they stand for nothing. Think about that, folks. They stand for nothing. Last week, I told you the story of Chris Sununu, who was the son of John Sununu. He was the governor of New Hampshire, and quite a political dynasty in New Hampshire. His father, John Sununu, was in the Reagan administration. I believe he was also in the House and Senate from New Hampshire. He may have been governor of New Hampshire. I am really taxing my memory on that. So if I have that wrong, you please, any of you out there in radio and TV land, get to me and correct me. If I'm wrong, I want to be corrected. But I believe John Sununu was in the House. I don't know if he made it to the Senate. Now I'm thinking differently. He was in the Reagan administration. He was chief of staff, I believe, for a short time, and was governor of New Hampshire. His son, Chris Sununu, was also governor of New Hampshire. took a trip to Washington, D.C. to meet with the Republican Senate leadership because he was considering a run for the United States Senate from New Hampshire. During his visit, he met with the Senate Republican leadership and said, "So what are you guys working on? What policy initiatives are you fighting for?" And they told him, "Nothing. We're not doing anything. The only thing we are here to do is to stop everything that Biden wants." And Chris Sununu said, "Well, the hell with that. Then I'm not running for the Senate." And he was their choice. He's who they wanted to run in New Hampshire because he's very, very popular there. And they thought they'd pick up a Senate seat. And he said, "No, I'm not going to be a part of that." So there's some hope somewhere out there in Republican land. Now, look, Chris Sununu is no moderate. He's a proper right winger, corporatist right winger. But at least if elected to a position, he actually wants to do something in that position. You have a U.S. Senate, a Republican U.S. Senate now that is happy to do nothing. So now you have a national Republican group. I would say party, but again, this just proves that they're not a functioning political party, whose job now is to do, they have accepted now the quote unquote job to do nothing. And the national Republican quote unquote party has no formal political platform. Leanne Caldwell, who is a reporter, Capitol Hill reporter for MSNBC, NBC, asked Mitch McConnell, the Republican Senate minority leader, he hates that, "What are you running on this year? What are your Republican Senate candidates running on? What do you want to do if you retake the majority in the US Senate?" And he told her, "I'll tell you after the election." What happened to the days when your would-be elected officials, when they are candidates, standing in front of you and saying, "This is what I believe in. If you agree with me, I'm asking for your vote." And Laura mentioned something very, very important earlier on when she was talking about her boss, Scott. He took some votes as an early representative that he did not personally believe in, but his constituents did. When is the last time you saw that? It's an interesting thing about being an elected representative. You go to the position, you campaign for the position, you run for the position with a set of principles in place. Your job is also to represent the people of your district, state, if it's a municipality or county, whatever that jurisdiction might be. You might have a certain principle, but if the plurality, the majority of the constituents in your constituency, whatever form that might take, don't agree with that, kind of do have an obligation to vote the way that they have asked. Now, of course, when you're in the position, you are probably and should be clued in, educated on, privy to information that the constituents of your district may not know, especially on a national level when you're dealing with, huge budget line items and top secret information and so on and so on. And it might force you to vote a different way, or it might inform that you have to vote against what the majority of the constituents you have believe because you have information they don't. But it's an interesting thing about being an elected official is that you kind of do have to straddle the line between your own, oh wow, Randall gave up on me, I guess I talked too long. You do have to straddle the line between your own personal principles and what your constituents want. It's interesting. It can be a very interesting dichotomy of things to deal with. And I want to just, Laura had to step away for a second. I hope she'll be returning. I'm sure she's going to be returned. I'm sure there's something happening there at the house. Again, it's all life. We're doing this stuff from home, folks. I don't think anybody has done my show from an office or from a formal, from a TV studio or something like that. Oh, change the scenery. But yeah, it's an interesting thing about being an elected official, folks. I think it's something that we need to think about, is that you do have to straddle that line between your own core principles, your own set of principles, and what the constituency wants. I think it's a very interesting thing to admit. It's a very interesting thing, for a great thing, positive thing, to be honest, for Laura to tell us that, Scott took a vote. He didn't stand for it, but the people he represented did. And he took the vote. It's actually a very positive thing to say about
What are we talking about?
I had a caller, you ran off, you ran away.
No, I think I was listening. No,
We were just talking about
was it from like 5 years ago or
No, well, it doesn't matter though, really, does it though? How often does that happen today? And then I broke into a liturgy about, of course, how Republicans have no national platform, and the story of Chris Sununu, who visited the Senate leadership because he was thinking of running for Senate, and he asked the Senate Republican leadership, "What are you working on?" And they said, "Nothing. We're just here to stop anything that Biden wants." And so Chris Sununu said, "Well, then I'm not running for the Senate because that's not what I'm coming here for. I'm coming here to legislate." And I find that very interesting. And again, it goes back to what I have said 1,000 times on this program, folks. I say it probably dozens of times within any given program. We are not perfect, the Democratic Party. We're not. And we can do better. And because let's take the words right from the Constitution, a more perfect union, presupposing the fact that we are not perfect and that we are always seeking a better state of things, but we're the only functioning political party left. There's a big thing that I really want to ask you about, because it's a debate. Kristen grew up in Snyder County, rural Pennsylvania. When we are fortunate enough to go back to her parents, why they still let me in the house, I have no idea. But when we go back to visit her parents, there's an Amish family down the road. It's all surrounded by farms. When I'm working and I drive to, the Lancaster area, it's dairy farm after dairy farm after dairy farm. Center County has some pretty rural areas. You mentioned that earlier in the program.
Yep.
I wanted to, hey, oh, I love it. Oh, how beautiful.
My kitty Sufjan.
Oh, is he liking, I'm not sure he's like the camera
pretty
part.
upset.
Yeah. Oh, he doesn't look happy. Oh, it's too bad. Hi, handsome. Hello, beautiful.
I named him after Sufjan Stevens. Love him.
My cats have taken to, well, one of my cats has taken to being on camera. When Kristen's on a meeting, she will hop up on the lap and stare at everybody in the screen. It's pretty funny. I really want to ask you what I think is a really important question. And I think it's a debate that Kristen and I have a lot. And it's something that we don't always agree on, even though we do certainly agree on the problem. We don't always agree on the solution, and we don't always agree on how we got here. There are very rural parts of Center County. And even outside of Center County, you have done work with the Democratic Party all across the Commonwealth. There are very, very, very rural areas in this Commonwealth. Yeah. Why have Democrats become so toxic? There are areas of rural Pennsylvania where Jesus Christ himself could run as a Democrat and not get elected. Where is the disconnect between this party, our party, and good, decent folks in rural PA? We're the only ones trying to help them, but we are the only ones they would never vote for. Where is that disconnect?
So
that's a face. That's a face that says, "How long you got?" We got plenty of time.
No, you're actually just not gonna have. You're not going to have votes. You're not going to have people turning out. That's
why has the party lost its connection to rural folks?
Well, the party didn't have their connection to that voting demographic to begin with. I don't think I think that break has existed for a number of years anyway. It's been slowly And it's not been something that like people have at least been tracking. And I can't speak to it because again, I was born in 92. So I don't know who was tracking these things, like tracking these political trends. I just know when I came about, but
Well, let's think
something's
about
been
it then from a policy standpoint. The rural areas of Pennsylvania used to be diehard blue areas. They aren't anymore.
because they were labor, and this is where the Democratic Party has failed. They have not done their part in continuing to like work with working class people, and that is not like, that's not a typical like, oh hey, we're going to be like the working class blue collar people in that kind of messaging. Like there's clearly been multiple shifts in how we message since the New Deal era of how we work with people when we're talking about like working class Americans, like how we deal with raising the wage, anything like that. There's been a massive disconnect really since the 1980s, like since the Reagan era. And I would say that the Democrats had no problem falling in line with the Reagan messaging and leaving everything else behind. And that's exactly what contributed to the fall of our messaging, like was supporting working people and, and labor. Like, would you guys agree with that? Because I wasn't alive for it, but that seems to be what happened.
Well, like everything in this country, and in a complex and very diverse state like PA, and if not racially diverse, although it is increasing, it is certainly diverse in mountains to cities to rural to farm. It's very, very diverse in that area. I would say the demise of labor is certainly part of it. I think Fox and the right-wing hate media is also a very large part of that. Poor cat is certainly also a very large part of it. But I guess I'm asking, and I agree with you that the party writ large has failed to reconnect with folks in these areas. I guess I'm asking, again, at risk of asking the same question over and over again. I'm guilty of doing that a lot, but it is the Democratic Party that wants to not even just continue public education, but improve it. Or I actually said that backward, not just improve it, but even allow it to continue to exist. We're the ones that want to pave the roads, and we don't want to dump fracking water in rivers. And we'd like to stop ruining farmland to put pipelines in it. And we're the ones that actually want rich people to pay taxes. How is the policy message not getting through to good, decent, hardworking folks in large sections of our Commonwealth? And by the way, throughout the country, Nebraska, Iowa, these places used to be solidly blue places. They're so dead red now. I don't even know what shade it is, but how are we not getting the truth of our policies to these folks?
So I can't speak to these states because I've never organized there. I have no idea what it takes to win an election there. I don't know. I really don't.
Well, when you go into rural sections of your county and of this Commonwealth, what do folks tell you? What do they say? How do you communicate with them?
So we talk on a regular, a regular basis. We don't talk party line. We just talk about what issues they care about, issues we care about. That's what tends to get our votes. So that's what concerns me. You know, say when I've campaigned, it's never been too much of an issue for, say, Scott Conklin or, you know, maybe the governor or anything else. Like, we just can actually have candid conversations with voters on the doors and take note of that. But I'm not sure what else to, I mean, everything else we take from that, I'm not sure what else to say. I mean,
Is that answer, when you very honestly admit that you're not sure how to answer, doesn't that kind of define our problem?
Yes.
Is that we don't have an answer? Because
No,
I don't have
that's
one.
exactly right.
I'm not here to say that I dropped my pen. I'm not here to say that I have an answer. I'm not saying that I'm the smarter one, because God knows I'm not. Because I'm disconnected too. I can't make that common sense. I can't understand how these common sense, historically contextual, factual arguments cannot get through to good, decent thinking people. We're the only ones that are trying to help them. The only ones. And yet they won't vote for us. Again, if Christ himself came down and stood next to me and endorsed me, they wouldn't vote for me. But we're the only ones trying to help them. I can't make that connection. I don't know how to break through to it. I'm just curious if you know how, because you're closer to it. Northampton has some rural areas, but certainly not the way it is in the center of the state. And I'm curious about what your discussions are like, whether it's knocking doors or whether you just walk into a little shop and they have a Trump sign up or whatever. Like, I'm wondering what those discussions are like, because I don't have the answer either. Hey, maybe we'll both get struck by lightning and brainstorm something brilliant in the next few minutes. But I'm mystified by it. I don't have an answer for it. And I think that's what frustrates me about it, but you're closer to it than I am. I'm just wondering what your thoughts and experiences are and have been, and how you think you're going to deal with it going forward.
I think we have a better chance of both being struck by lightning and getting some kind of message from that. I have had some wild experiences on the door, like when I've been knocking doors, like up in the mountains, like everywhere. I mean, I've had veterans like pull up their shirts and show me their like war, like bullet wounds.
Oof. Okay, I didn't know where that was going.
Be like, they'd be like, hey, this is what happened during Nam, and like, I want to tell you about it. And I'd be like, okay, cool. And they'd be like, do you want to smoke a cig? And I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Like, but that's knocking doors in a lot of places. And that's not, like, forget the suburbs. That's knocking doors in rural places. And I don't think you can block things off into one particular like area. And I don't think we're gonna like come down to like, we're not gonna come away with like these answers, you know, just in one go, being like, oh, you knock doors in, say, Mountaintop in central PA, or you knock some rural areas in, in eastern PA. Like that's not how it's going to work. I think what's very, very critical is that people like us, who are all very invested in this work, are, maintaining contact, and we're very invested in what it means to have effective communication and organization, and that we just keep talking. That's what I think is really critical. Not that we just try to have one go at a time. That's what I would really advise. But
The ongoing conversation, the continuing, we're not going to accomplish everything at one shot. These are ongoing, continuous conversations that have to be had.
Absolutely.
What happens when I don't know if you've had them, obviously through the last 2 years, which actually don't even seem like 2 years. They kind of seem like all one conglomeration of time from when this pandemic started, but
everything feels like that.
Has Scott had town halls during this time?
Yeah.
In person?
Yes.
How have they gone? What have you learned from them? What has he learned from them?
So they've been good. And we've done everything, with safety, COVID mitigation, social distancing, masking. But no, it's mainly been about getting feedback from the community about what's going on in the legislature and what we can do at the community level within the district. So we've had a few of them throughout the district. I think they've been well received. We haven't gotten much like negative feedback, but
it's usually the loudest folks in the room who tend to show up to things like that. Usually if you're happy, you don't show up to something like that. You tend to only show up when you're unhappy. And I certainly know that, I don't think any of our officials around here have live town halls that I can recall. Our U.S. House rep was having one a month throughout the district there for a while, and it got ugly. So I was just curious about that. I'm glad he's still having them. I think it's about time that we get back to having them. It's also something that representatives from our party do that the party opposite us doesn't do, and they don't do town halls. They certainly don't do live ones. If they can't pre-screen and decide who's going to be there ahead of time, they're not having them. That other side of information on Facebook. If you're anywhere across the Facebook universe, stay where you are. Come to that other side of information to join the chat. We're going to try to do about another half hour with Laura. She's been exceptionally gracious with her time on a Sunday evening when we all have to go back to work tomorrow. The phone line is open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. That other side of information on Facebook, hot101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store, Tune In, Radio app, and you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net, and TCP, of course, the cultured professional from our own humble Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Lancaster County. They have a very, very large Facebook presence and the Roku channel and WTCP Internet Radio. They, I believe, return live tomorrow for the morning show. Laura Shadle is our guest, about a half hour more, and then we will wrap up for the evening. I just want to preview you just a tiny bit. Next week is March 6th, Sunday, March 6th. Our guest is scheduled to be Brian Sims, Representative Brian Sims, Pennsylvania State Representative Brian Sims, our third sitting state rep to come on the program. He is from Philadelphia, and he is running for Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Again, very fortunate enough to call Brian friend, and we have finally wrangled him onto the program. I've been trying to get him here for a very long time, but Brian is definitely one of those stones that gathers no moss, if you will, and he is in constant motion. It's been very hard to get him pinned down, but yet he's making time for us on a Sunday night as an active statewide candidate to talk to us. And he will be joining us next week. I want to also say Kristen is downstairs. We are both battling migraines tonight, and she is certainly battling them as well. And mentions to me that she's always great about giving me some notes when I'm struggling for what to say. And yes, folks, before you laugh and spit out whatever it is that you're drinking, I do occasionally get lost thinking of what to say next. Some rural areas were blue. Here, and speaking of Pennsylvania, but again, for you folks, for you good folks on Hot 101 and across Facebook, around the country and around the world, simply because I live in Pennsylvania and happen to focus very, very largely on Pennsylvania, so much of what's happening in this Commonwealth is happening in your states and your countries as well. These, while the issues that we discuss here might sound hyper local to you, well, I'm listening to Hot 101 in California. What do I care about Pennsylvania? Because it's happening there too. It is. It might be in some different form, and it might not be as serious or as prolific or as deep as it is happening here, but it's happening to you too. When you have, conspiracy theorists running for school board here in my own town, it's happening to you across the country. When we talk about a Republican move into fascism, it's happening around the world, folks. It's literally happening around the world. Did I bore you right off the phone?
No, I
You hit the
Sunday
button.
night family dinner.
Gotcha.
I had to go say goodbye to one family.
Gotcha.
Two of my grandchildren, and I still got another family with two of my other grandchildren here. So I'm going to have to go say goodbye when it's time for them to leave.
Well,
but
did you have
you didn't bore me out.
Did you have a question that you wanted to throw into the pot here?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Laura a question, but she doesn't seem to be there at the moment.
No. Well, she's pulling double duty. I mean, after, like I've said, a lot of times on the program. Okay, go ahead, Randall. Ask your question.
Yeah, Laura. Hi again. I hear they're leaving, hon. I hear they're leaving. I got to hang up and go say goodbye to another family. I apologize.
Send it to me in the chat. I'll ask.
All right.
Laura, tell me about your typical day. You are a human being. We're not just political figures. We're not just robots. We're not just, we don't just wake up and in front of a computer looking fresh and clean and typing legislation and things like that. You're a human being. Tell me what the typical day is of I really actually like to try to give people a little bit of insight as to what the human being Laura Shadle goes through on a day, week, etc. in the job that you do. What is your typical day like?
I don't.
Or do you not have a typical day? Is it office work? Is it phone calls? Is it going out? Is it
It's always something. It's always something.
Constituent calls? Is it
All of that intermix. Or I could find different ways to put my hair into curlers or something like that. But no, I don't know. I don't know. Either I wake up at 5 a.m. or I put most of my day into some kind of work. I don't know why that would be super pertinent, like on a podcast.
Well, because we're human beings. I think we sometimes think of.
I don't know if I am anymore. But
I think we sometimes think of people inside politics as some kind of, or inside government even, some almost like machines, like a if you're in Center
I'm fine
County,
with letting people think that I'm a machine at this point. If I
Well,
don't have to answer questions.
if you're in Center
Right now,
County,
I'm just feeding a bunch of animals around me.
if you're in Center County and you see a lot of Scott Conklin in interviews or in TV, I think some of our elected officials can almost become kind of that TV face. They become almost like they're not, like they don't have families, like they don't have things at home. Like they don't have to Christmas shop and take the garbage out and shovel snow and things like that. I just ask not to be personal, not to dig into parts of your life that you don't want to share. But I think we sometimes think of people in government as something, they're detached from us. They don't understand us. Well, you have to grocery shop, you have to put gas in the car, you have to clean ice off when you have a storm, you rake leaves, you take care of your pets. I'm just curious, like, again, I'm not trying to dig into something that you don't want to share, but you are a human being. You're not a machine. You're not 24/7 in Scott's office. You have a life. How and especially in a pandemic situation when you're maybe not going into an office or not traveling to Harrisburg, and what is it? How is it like? What is it? How much? Why do you love it? Why is it? What is your day like? What is it like dealing with constituents? What is it like dealing with folks from the opposite party? If maybe you're negotiating on a piece of legislation with another staff member from a member of the opposite party. What is life like? Or at least that you're willing to tell us about.
No, when it comes,
And again, I'm not trying to ask anything that you don't want to share. Just, you're a human. What is it like doing what you do? It's what you do for a living.
when it comes to negotiating, especially when it comes to negotiating, with somebody from across the aisle, anything like that, we do what we have to do to get things done or passed. I don't think it's too much. One of the cool things about who I work for is he's kind of inherently campy and wild, and I'm into that. So, yeah, I think we have a good thing going here. I don't think I have to compromise too much of who I am when I do my work in this office, when we have to get things done or get things passed. That's more or less what I will say.
You are also, while we haven't had the opportunity to talk much or share a coffee or a beverage or a lunch, I have seen you obviously a lot at the Pennsylvania State Committee meetings when we used to do them in person. Why, as one of the hats that I wear is with our Revolution Pennsylvania, we have dedicated ourselves to getting progressives elected at every level of the Democratic Party, municipal, county, and state. Why do you feel it is important for people to get involved inside the party?
Oh, because I think with anybody, if you have issues, I have been involved again since the Bush era. And I have found that if you have any issues within the political system, that it should begin with getting involved within the party and saying, where do our values align and what do we have to do to organize within that? And that is something that I really believe in. And so I think a lot of organizing, if that's where people align themselves politically, like they should start there. If not, then organize without the party. But that would be my advisement.
I'm hearing the bowls. That's what my kitchen sounds like. Cats rattling.
I'm sorry.
I love it.
I'm pet sitting.
No, I love it. I think it's funny. I think it's great. I love it.
I have like 3 dogs behind me right now, but I can't get rid of them. It's a family.
I agree with you. There's definitely a lot of organizing and things that can be done outside of the party structure, but it seems to me the simple answer, and I know not everybody's made for it. I think all too often people think they need to run for public office when sometimes maybe the better move to see the policy positions and initiatives that you want to see accomplished is to be inside the party, to be that precinct committee person, knocking doors, meeting your neighbors, helping decide who the candidates are. And at least for me, we hope anyway, let me find some wood to knock on, at a state committee level, is making the process a hell of a lot more transparent and keeping our faces out of the endorsement process when we don't belong there and things like that. And it seems to me, if you're not happy with how the Democratic Party operates, then get in it and fix it.
That sounds
Or at
about
least try. Or at least try. Because we know the party in the state doesn't work right. It just doesn't. Especially coming from New Jersey, and God knows New Jersey is not perfect either, but it doesn't work right. And it doesn't work well, certainly compared to the states around us. Before I let you go, it's been a long night and you have been exceptionally gracious with your time. And I'm very, very honored that you would be here. And I have to tell you that Christopher Kowardovich earlier on in the chat said the party of the century is going to be your birthday. And he will be there. Sounds so, no pressure, party of the century. No pressure.
he's right. And you're invited to that, by the way. I'll send you an invite. It's late March. I'm turning 30 in late March. It's going to be a whole thing.
Are we going to be? No, it'll be after St. Patrick's. So it'll be St. Patrick's Day.
No, it'll be after St.
That's a lot of partying in a row.
It'll be like an obnoxiously Irish thing because it's me. You'll get an invite.
Is there anything that, well, in reverse, by the way, when you find yourself back in the Lehigh Valley, I hope you will come and find Kristen and I. We can, get into Center City, Bethlehem, and get foodie or whatever works for us at that particular. I hope you'll come and see us when you come back to the Valley. This is a busy place back here. For somebody who's tuned into politics, the Valley is a busy place. There's a lot happening here. A lot rides on what's going on in these two counties, that's for sure. Is there anything that we did not get to talk about? Is there anything that you don't think you got to possibly fully explain? Or how do people contact you? How do they, especially the folks in the constituency, if they need help, how do they follow you? How, if you want people to follow you, but how do they? I just want to open the floor to you to anything that maybe we didn't get to discuss or didn't get to completely suss out, or I just want to open the floor to you and give it to you to speak about whatever you wish to speak about before I stop keeping you in front of a screen on a Sunday night.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. No, I think we pretty much went over everything. And I think my information was already pretty much put out there. Again, my name is Laura Shadle. I'm out of Center County. I'm a state committee representative from Center County. And I'm pretty easy to reach if you're trying to organize at any level, especially on behalf of the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania. I am somebody you can reach out to, or anybody who's in your region who, works with the Democratic Party. We're really here to help you, and I certainly am. And I want to thank Jeff again for bringing me on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Well, I need to thank you for taking over 2 hours out of your Sunday evening when you could be relaxing, napping, having a quiet dinner, whatever it is that you might do on a Sunday. So I'm exceptionally grateful. I do have bad news for you, and that is you are part of the family now on our program. And I very, very sincerely, truly, very much hope this is not the only time that we see you. If you have something important that you think my audience needs to know about, you tell me, and the door to this program is open to you. Please do not let this be the only time you come and visit us. You're part of the family, and we hope that you will join us again sometime in the future. Like I said, if you or Scott, well, I'm going to have Scott at some point, but
Scott, he'll be here.
If you have something important that you need to share with our audience, you tell me. And this screen, this microphone, this platform is open to you to share valuable information to our audience that they need to know. I'm very, very truly grateful for you giving me and our audience this much time on a Sunday evening when you could be doing a host of other things. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. I'm so thankful. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And please come back and see us.
Will do.
All right. Stay safe.
All right. You too.
That is Laura Shadle. We're so grateful for all of her time, especially on a Sunday night when she's trying to help out a friend and house sit. And, you know, you got a house full of cats and dogs. It's great. Isn't that great? It's just so normal. It's just so normal. And it's not funny. I guess we kind of throw the word funny around. It's not like haha funny, but it's just kind of strange to me sometimes how folks are like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, my dog is barking. Well, yeah, no kidding, you're at home. It's what it happens. Or like, hey, oh my God, my kids are making noise. Well, yeah, for sure. No kidding. Because it's your house. You're at your house. I mean, of course it's gonna be this way. It doesn't bother me. I love seeing the cats. I love when I hear the metal bowl clanking in the background. It's like because the dog's eating. Of course. The dog's barking because he's lonely. I want you to go sit with him, of course. And I haven't, well, we don't have dogs here, but I mean, you hear a dog barking in the background. It's like, well, yeah, well, the gate's up because I'm in another room on the Zoom. Well, the heck with it. Let the dog sit at your lap. What do I care? It's just, it's part of life. And I always find it a little strange when people are so bothered, like, oh, I'm sorry, the dog's making noise. What? I don't care. I think it's great. If she'd picked the dog up and the dog sat in her lap for the whole interview, I'd be happy with that. Wouldn't bother me. I'd have the cats on this show for the whole show if they were willing to do it. They just don't like being held that long generally. Although Sis has really taken to doing Zooms with Kristen. It's quite, I really need to, I'm working during the day, so I don't get to see these daytime Zooms, but Sis will jump up on her lap and just sit and stare at everybody in the Zoom. I must be really funny to watch if you're on the other end of it. I wish I could see it one of these days. But anyway, let's reset a little bit. It is 7:20 Eastern time. We're really, really grateful for Laura for giving us the time that she did. I think it's interesting to not always, we're very, very fortunate on the program. We've had authors and scientists and clergy and elected officials. And sometimes I think it's just interesting to, I can understand why Laura would be thinking, like, well, what do you care about what my day is like? But I think we have to remember sometimes, I think we all too often feel disconnected from our government, and we shouldn't. And I think it's important sometimes to remember that these are just people. When I talk to you about contacting the elected officials in your government, I am always conscious, and I will always remind you that the people working in the local district offices for these elected officials anywhere in the US, anywhere in the United States, and the local elected officials, local offices for elected officials, even outside the country, because they have them. The members of parliament in Canada have a local district office. The MPs in the UK have a local district office. In France, in Italy, in South Africa, in Australia, they have local offices. And those are the best points of contact for you as a constituent to go into that local office and say, how does my representative, where does he or she stand on this issue? Well, I disagree, or I agree. It's the place where you get constituent services. I'm having a problem with this government program. I'm having a problem with a local zoning problem. I'm having a problem with the state office of. This is where you get your solutions to problems. And it's the people in those offices, which is what I'm ultimately getting to. The people in those offices are just people. They're human beings. They're your friends and neighbors. Well, even if they're not your friends, they're your neighbors. They live in the same area you live in. They're having the same problems, issues, day-to-day household things that you're having. And I just think it's interesting sometimes to talk to someone like Laura, who's doing this for a living, but still, like I said, has to still go buy groceries at the end of the day. And might have worked a 10, 12, 14-hour day, driving home and then realize, oh crap, I need cat food. Just like I've done 100 times. Like, I'm just so tired, I can barely keep my eyes open to drive, and now I got to stop and get cat food, or I have to stop and get allergy medicine, or I have to stop at the grocery store, or oh my crap, I'm out of gas. We're humans doing this stuff. I'm not a TV star. I'm not a radio star. I'm a person who happens to be relatively good at radio and television, but I'm a human being. I go through the same things you go through. I could take the remainder of the 40 minutes of the program if we make it to 8 o'clock. I might run out of things to say by then. We I have enough health problems to probably take you through the rest of the program. I think it's interesting sometimes to just hear. Maybe you don't think it's interesting. I happen to, that these are people. The representatives themselves, they're people. They're people. They're human beings. They go through the same things that you and I go through. And not all of them, by the way, because well over, what's the last figure? I want to say it's in the 3/4 range, the 75% range of all the members of the federal legislature, the House and Senate, are millionaires. No, that's not like you and me. No, they aren't like you and me. But the people that work for them are. I'm sure there's a few millionaires in there as well. The high level staffers who've, have lots of good lobbyist friends. I'm sure there's some millionaires in there too. But the congressional pages, the low level staffers, the interns, the folks who staff the local constituent offices, they're just human beings like you and I. And I think it's kind of fascinating to hear how they get involved in these things and how they handle them and how they do them. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. The phone line is open. We will try to hang with you till 8 unless I run out of things to say, and then we will just say goodbye to you until next week, and it'll be an early, quicker show. George will thank me. It will take that much less time to convert. Anywhere that you are across Facebook, I want to thank, actually, and I really hope that they hear this. I want to thank the group. It's the AOC, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez Progressives Group. They have a ridiculous number of members, and they have been very, very kind, allowing us to share our show announcements and the program into their Facebook group. In fact, I need to look at now because now I'm not sure. I want to say it was like 8,000 members or something of the sort. Let me see if I can find this very quick. I will try to. Oh, sorry, take that back. 83,000 members. 83,000 members. They have been very, very kind in allowing me to share show announcements and the program into their group each week. And I just want to say, this is going to sound very, very boring. I'm probably going to bore some of you to tears, but I really do want to say this because I really want to thank them. Look, I thank every group that shares our program, but this was kind of different. I started getting notifications through Facebook that the AOC group declined your post, declined your post, declined your post, declined your post. And I thought to myself, oh man, they're not going to let me share the program there anymore. And I was lucky enough to make contact with one of the administrators. And I said, look, you guys have always let me share the program here before. Is there a reason that we can no longer do that? Have I done something to offend the group? Did I say something you didn't like or whatever? And the gentleman finally got back to me and he said, oh no, program's great. We actually go back through, and this is interesting to me because I didn't know anybody did this. They will actually go through the timeline of the group and erase older posts. Who knew? I didn't know folks actually did that. I guess obviously they do. I know in my group, I don't go through and erase older things. And I guess they removed a bunch of the shows from the timeline, older ones going back months from the time that they began to allow us to share. And it was just nice that they answered, and I'm glad, and I'm so glad that they allow us to continue to share the program there. It means a lot to us. And I know that I say it a lot. I say it multiple times throughout the course of the program. We couldn't do this program if you weren't listening, and if you weren't watching, and if you weren't engaging with us and reacting, and answering questions and asking questions. We couldn't be here without it. At the end of the day, as informational, as educational as I think our program is, it is still on some level entertainment. And if you didn't listen, we couldn't keep doing it. So thank you, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of the program. 7:30. Oh, now he's going to ask his question. I am being so nice to you tonight. This is 4. This is number 4. So damn it.
It's number 2.
Now I want your question.
Yeah, I was going to change the whole.
Go for it. Ask a question.
I was going to change the whole policy issue.
Please do.
On to what she thought and you thought, Jeff, of the invasion
Oh.
of the Ukraine.
Are you
by
giving me?
Russia.
You're giving me an easy one. Well, I won't speak for Laura. She's not here. I know that we are exceptionally like-minded, so I would guess that we're somewhere in the same neighborhood, but I will. Wow, you gave me an easy question, huh? Look, it is the major topic of the day. I would like to first say to you, Randall, and please continue to interchange with me. You're the only one on the line, obviously, at the moment. I think we cannot overlook the massive historical significance of what is happening. This is the first major land war in Europe since 1945. It is very significant. We cannot forget or overlook the very serious historical implications of this. A land war in Europe, the first one since the end of World War II. This is as President Biden himself says often, this is a BFD. This is a big deal. He doesn't say the F word in the middle either, but he does say it's a BFD, and it's a BFD. What do I think about it? I think it is disturbing on a very, very, very many levels. The fact that President Putin has not just said that has not just used the pretexts that we have to go and protect Russian ethnic minorities, but that he's actually gone the whole distance and said that the Ukraine is not even a country and that they have no right to exist. And that he's not just trying to topple a government or absorb land. He's trying to erase a people, erase their identity, and erase the borders. I know there's been some doom and gloom out there from some cable news networks, because let's just be blunt, war brings eyeballs to the TV. That's why MSNBC has been live 24/7 covering this, because war brings eyeballs. But let's not forget, let's not gloss over how close we are to a full-out continental land war in Europe.
And
frankly,
let's not forget what has come out in the last day, Jeff. That Putin has put his full nuclear arsenal on red alert.
Indeed, he has.
And that's really, really scary. That, I grew up in the 50s in elementary school.
You did duck and cover.
And I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, which would have been one of the major strike forces, because that's where Boeing built our B-52 bombers.
You also had nuclear missile silos in Kansas, didn't you?
they surrounded, yes, they surrounded Wichita.
Seriously.
Yeah, you can buy them, man, for your own personal bomb shelter.
You can,
now,
yeah, because
you
a
know?
lot of them have been abandoned. Yes, you can buy them as a bomb shelter, right? And they're actually quite effective. Yeah, they've been converted into bombs. So actually, the wealthy have converted quite a number of them into their own
Yes, yeah.
personal bomb shelters, which I find almost hilarious, because you got to come out of that thing eventually, and you're going to die from radiation poisoning just like the rest of us. But it's,
Yep.
I think I don't think it's hyperbole to talk about the fact that we are on the precipice, and it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And quite frankly, in my gut, I don't think it's going to happen. But we are dancing on the pitch of the roof, and we could fall on either side. We could very well have a full out, proper World War III tactical, conventional, or even tactical nuclear land war in Europe. Again, the third one in just over 100 years. I don't see that coming personally, but it's an absolute possibility. The chances, especially with American troops now in the 3 Baltic nations, yeah, that's right, the Baltic nations they call them, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And I think we're up to already 10,000 troops in Poland. And by the way, the United States is now constructing a permanent military installation in Poland. That didn't take long, did it, kids? That only took us a few minutes to get started on that, baby. President Putin has actually managed to do everything that was undone by the Trump regime. NATO is now united. It is resolute. It is acting. It is being proactive, in my humble opinion. You now have the Swedes and the Finns, who have always resisted joining NATO. They've always cooperated with NATO, but were never formal members, now seeking membership, or at least discussing it with the NATO High Command, becoming members. You also have I don't want to say the birth, that would be really oversimplistic. You have the codification, if you will, of the Ukrainian identity. Ukrainians, if it's not out of step for me to say, or out of line for me to say, Ukrainians have always felt Ukrainian. They have always loved their country. Now they really love their country. Now they're willing to go die for it. Something that I don't think President Putin ever thought was going to happen. I believe he thought it's set up already. It should be set up. I believe that he thought, and you should be logged in already. I believe he thought that the Ukrainian identity would simply crumble at the sight of a line of tanks. And it's done the exact opposite. It has solidified the Ukrainian identity. And that's no small thing. I don't know if the Ukraine is going to survive this. I have an actual feeling that it's going to. I don't know that its original borders are going to maintain. I don't know that the original borders are going to end up after this the way they did before it started, but I don't think the nation of the Ukraine is going to disappear. And in fact, I think President Putin just made a proper Western style European democracy out of the Ukraine. I think everything he wanted to do is probably going to fail out of this. I also think it might be a little too soon to report the demise of President Putin. He is very solidified. He is the Russian government. And I think he's very entrenched, and I think reports of his demise might be quite a bit premature.
Absolutely premature, Jeff. He has solidified the oligarchy, his oligarchy type government, totally behind him. He has gone into total repression over the decades. He's been in power, and I have to give it for the Russian young people. the millennials.
Who have
The generation-
protested.
the generation-
Right. The first night they protested,
yeah,
and
they're putting their lives on line.
they are
to
indeed.
protest this war.
The first night there were protests in roughly 54 cities, 1,700 arrests, even more beatings. I mean, they were just openly beaten, the protesters. And second night they went out and did it again. Not in the same numbers, but they did it again and have continued to do so. It was reported by NBC today that 2 members of the Duma, the Russian parliament, actually came out against the war and said that it had to stop. That might not sound like a lot, but in a very monolithic type government, it's a big deal. And a couple of those oligarchs have come out against this war too, because they're already feeling the economic pain of Western sanctions. So I don't see President Putin leaving the presidency until he's either assassinated or dies of natural causes. I don't know that the pre-war boundaries of the Ukraine will survive, but I do think the Ukraine itself will survive. And I think President Putin has probably saved NATO to a great extent. The absolute everything that he didn't want to do, he's done it. He's done it. He's accomplished pretty much the opposite of everything he was trying to accomplish. Pretty nearly. My esteemed better half and co-host has entered the studio. I don't know if you can see that, Randall. You have to put your hand,
I can see.
you don't have to put your hand up. Just talk. To put your hand up.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt
You have to
guys.
put your hand up. My goodness.
Sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you guys. You're having a great conversation.
Well, Randall wants to hear. Randall likes you more than me anyway. He wants to hear from you anyway. I talk all the damn time. You're a hell of a lot prettier than me.
I love both of you. I love both of you.
Go ahead, young
It's
lady.
nice to hear from you, Rana. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I will say that I think, to preface this, I am Ukrainian on my dad's side. Even though my last name looks Russian, the spelling of my last name was changed. And there's always been a very strong Ukrainian identity, and I was always kind of slightly fascinated by that history because we didn't have much left of our culture. We thoroughly Americanized, my brother and I. And there's always been a very strong view of Ukrainian identity, it seems, in the country, but also an acknowledgement that they had a close cultural tie to the Russians, but they saw themselves as for lack of a better way, the real Russians, where the Kiev Rus was founded, not in Moscow, but here in Kiev. And I think Putin has shattered that. I think he's shattered those
that
ties.
bridge. You mean that bridge of that almost that historical Ukrainian-Russian connection has been shattered, is what you're saying.
It may come
Or
back.
somewhat shared history, if I'm not using the right term.
Yeah, well, that cultural, but and that cultural bond may survive him. I mean, to be fair, it survived Lenin, it survived Stalin. It survived the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to be part of the Soviet Union. They were literally starved into the Soviet Union. So into losing their independence, and then when they left the Soviet Union, they gave Russia their nuclear weapons, but it was kind of a deal in '94 to say we want to be a democracy. We want to be Western facing. We're not part of Russia. We're independent. We're our own thing. And I think he sorely underestimated the fervor that he was going to tap into. Taking the Crimea was one thing, but going to Kyiv is completely something different.
I just want to tell you that as the host of this Zoom, I cannot raise my own hand. And I tell you what, I wanted to raise my hand so it looked like we were giving each other a high five.
You can't raise your hand?
I can't raise my own hand. It's not a Zoom option. I hate to break the seriousness of the discussion, but I'm just saying, I wanted to raise my hand so it looked like you and I had our hand up together.
But
So
I'm
we're giving each other a high five.
I'm fascinated to hear from Randall what it's like. You know, I didn't realize that you grew up in Kansas, Randall, but you know, Trump let all of our final nuclear arms agreement lapse and our final missile agreements lapse. There is nothing left from the Cold War, you know, the end of the Cold War when we signed SALT and START and START 2.
It's worse than that. He actually began a new program to modernize
and militarize space.
Militarized space, but also modernize the existing nuclear arsenal and also begin development and testing of new weapons. To my knowledge, Randall, I'll give it to you in 1 sec. To my knowledge, and again, as always, I'm happy to learn from you folks, the listening audience, what I do not know. President Biden has not stopped that program.
Not that I know of.
So I believe DOD is still mandated new tactical battlefield nuclear weapons, as well as ICBMs, the militarization of space, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Go ahead, Randall. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That I read an article a couple of days ago that the Department of Defense wants, I think it was $80 billion to upgrade our ICBM bases around the country to new missiles. You know, it's nuclear deterrence. And to you, Christine, yeah, I only grew up in Kansas till I was 10 years old. My father was transferred through Boeing to Delaware County here when I was 10, and second semester of fifth grade, when Boeing bought out Vertol helicopters, and you know they produced the Chinooks, they produced the B-22s, but Kansas is known as the wheat state. And my family's history all go back to homesteaders.
Oh, wow.
You know, after the Civil War. I've got a great-grandfather that was a Civil War vet. And he went out and got his 165 acres in Anthony, Kansas. And grew wheat. Grew what is called hard turkey winter wheat. And what that means is it was not English spring wheat. It's planted in the fall. Snowfalls are what irrigated during the winter to germinate in the spring. And it's harvested in like late May. The actual seeds, the first genetic seeds of what is called turkey red hard winter wheat came from Ukrainian immigrants that settled out there in that time period in the 19th century. So there's a lot of families out there that have Ukrainian names to this day.
Wow.
And I just want to tell you that, Chris.
That's really
Hey,
beautiful.
Randall, let me ask you a quick question. I am going to try to give the phone line a little openness before we end up at 8, but I want to ask you a question before I kick you the hell out of here, Randall. I just want to ask you a question. When you were a kid in Kansas, if you can remember, because you're not paying attention to these things when you're a kid, was Kansas as deep red Republican as it is now, or was it Democratic? Because to a great extent, Roosevelt saved Kansas, not just from the New Deal, but the first real environmental policies that we ever had in this country by paying farmers not to plant anymore and saving America's breadbasket from the Dust Bowl. If you can remember from when you were, I know you were young, was Kansas red or was it Democratic?
Well, it was, you know,
Or mixed, It could have been mixed.
If you look at our U.S. history, Jeff, Kansas was called the Bloody State, where abolitionists and slaveholders were literally killing each other.
Yep.
John Brown, that's where he started.
He was in Kansas,
before
yes, he was.
Harper's Ferry. And then you go into Kansas with Rotunda, and on the Rotunda is a picture of the angry man. Yes, Kansas has always been Republican. But my mother, for example, after we moved here, she kept a Republican registration here because she thought, here in Delaware County, because she thought Delaware County was like Kansas, meaning that the only choice you have on a candidate is in the Republican primary to get a Republican that's slightly more progressive or is more conservative. And my mom did not change her registration to a Democrat until the first time I ran for public office in Aston Township here in Delaware County in 1979 for my local school board that I graduated from. So yes, it's always been Republican, but has it been this conservative Republican? No, not like it is today. But there are Democrats now in Kansas, especially around Wichita, Kansas City, Missouri, Lawrence, Kansas, where the University. Of Kansas is.
Yeah. I thought Kansas went for Roosevelt, but maybe I was wrong.
I think Randall just touched on
Sure,
something.
could Google it really quick if I wasn't so lazy.
Randall just touched on something that is important, is that the history, particularly the history of the Civil War period on, is really important in understanding a lot of these areas. Like I texted you earlier, my home county, the last time I voted for a Democrat for president was James Buchanan, because Buchanan was from Pennsylvania. That's what I'm guessing. Union County, the county north of me, has never voted for a Democrat. They've always voted Republican. It is also a very heavily, has very, very deep abolitionist history. A lot of people have Quaker ancestry. So you have people who, there's a long culture ingrained there with one particular party. And the way that the party may have described itself and described its policies changed over time, but it takes a long time for people who live there to change that identity. And then you get to someone like my grandmother, whose family, they were abolitionists, they were the progressive Christians. And then the awakening of the early 20th century hit in the 1920s, and they became the 10th revival, evangelical, reborn Christian kind of culture, and that kind of entered the Republican Party in about that time, and it stayed there. Now my grandmother, in terms of her religious views, liberalized, and then she married my grandpa, who was a Democrat, became a Democrat. But it takes a long time for people to change that kind of cultural fabric and identify with a different party.
Randall, I'm going to say goodbye to you, sir. I want to give the last 8 minutes unless somebody else.
I'm going to say goodbye to Kristen and to you, Jeff. Kristen, I'm glad I finally saw your face. I'm glad you came on here and sticking up for Ukraine.
Hey, can I tell you, Randall? I ask her every week.
A lot of weeks.
Every week. Now, sometimes she's working, and sometimes she's like, I just don't want to sit next to you. I see you all week. So,
but it's fun to do this.
I
enjoy this.
I turn her station on, her, I guess station, you'd say, her seat in the studio on every week. You don't see it on Zoom because I don't have it set that way. Only people who have their cameras on are on screen. But I set that up every week. And sometimes I'm just left up here all alone.
All by yourself.
All by my lonesome. Me and the voices in my head.
God bless you, folks.
Oh, it's lovely to chat with you, Randall.
I'll see you next week, Jeff.
Hey, you listen, you stay safe and healthy down there, all right, sir?
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, Randall.
God bless both of you.
And
oh,
you.
too.
That's our dear friend Randall. Phone line is open if you want to join us before 8 p.m. Be with you for around 7 more minutes. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. Again, if you ever miss any of our program live, you can go to our YouTube channel. I say YouTube first because that's pretty much the easiest place to go to find everything. It's the easiest place to play it. Hit pause, watch it in pieces, whatever you need to do to get to us through the week. You, of course, can also find the program in a recorded version living on at That Other Side of Information and any of the groups that have allowed us to share our humble little program to their group and page and so on and so on. We are on a variety of different social media, including YouTube, the one I talk about all the time, and of course Facebook, where we are live right at this very moment. But also you can find us on Instagram, and I really actually hope George is keeping track of the Instagram because I think I'm supposed to be doing it and I haven't been doing it, so I'm probably going to get in trouble for that. I actually did a TikTok today, folks. I don't fancy TikTok particularly, but let's just be blunt. It's effective and people see it. Really, all you're going to get out of me on TikTok at the moment, and not because April has not yelled at me 1,000 times to do this, and I should be doing it, but I will usually do my show announcements on TikTok to try to remind you of our program. And if you happen to be on TikTok, you can find us there, That Other Side of Information. Share the videos around. Again, we don't have advertisers. We don't have a budget. I mean, literally don't have a budget. It's a negative budget, actually. We survive, we grow by you. You do that for us. This I got to be honest with you, this is about the closest thing to public television that you're ever gonna find, because we survive by word of mouth. We survive with your help. And so there, let me just get to that. So we got Twitter at That Kennedy Talk. I haven't given the social media roster in quite a long time. Twitter at That Kennedy Talk. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and Patreon and TikTok are all That Other Side of Information, as we get to 4 minutes before. Again, one of the other hats that I wear is our Revolution PA. I never enunciate that quite properly. Our Revolution Pennsylvania. If you want to know how to become part of your local, municipal, county, or state Democratic Party, we will help. Next week, we are live. Lieutenant Governor candidate Brian Sims, sitting PA State Rep Brian Sims from Philadelphia, will be our guest, talking everything that Brian and I can possibly think to talk about. His campaign, his current job, his life, campaigning, running for office, the issues, the policies, the advocacy, all of it. Brian is a civil rights attorney as well. I mean, he has a wealth for a guy who's still a pretty darn young guy. I mean, everybody's younger than me, but it feels like everybody's younger than me. He's done a hell of a lot, and he's got a lot to talk about, and not just his own campaign too. It's not just another candidate coming on stumping for himself. He's got a real depth of experience in his life that, he's happy to share and tell people about. So we will be back with you live again next week with Brian Sims. Is there anything? I'm going to try to end at 8 so George doesn't yell at me for having too long of a program. Unless, George, you want to yell at me right now, you're welcome to do that.
I was just going to say, and Randall kind of mentioned this, and I think you mentioned it at another point. I have to say it's truly inspiring to see these young people come out in the streets in Russia, given they know what they're facing. They know the police are going to beat them, they are going to get arrested, they're going to be fined. I mean, when you think about it, if you were a 22-year-old kid in Moscow or St. Petersburg and you know that the leader of your political leader, the head of your party, perhaps like Navalny is in prison, and other opposition leaders have been killed, they've been poisoned. That's pretty gutsy to go out in the street and protest the war. I'd like to think I would have done that, but I got to be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a harsh thing to say.
I think about
it. I think there's certain elements of the Black Lives Matter movement that knew they were probably going to go out and get beaten by police, and they went and they did it. I think there were also significant parts of the movement who really didn't want to be beaten by police and either did not go out and protest or did, but as soon as the police puffed their chests out, ran in the other direction because they didn't feel like getting beaten. And guess what, kids? Who the hell wants to get beaten? No one. So I'm not here to blame them for that. But these are, as you said, these are thousands, tens of thousands of Russians across a vast nation in 50 plus cities, 50 plus cities, who know that they're going to get beaten and or arrested and or that the Russian secret police, and don't think that they don't exist anymore, because they do, are going to put that these protesters are now going to put themselves on the radar of the Russian secret police and be monitored and followed and phones tapped and social media monitored and so on and so on and so on. So it's no small thing. When I was telling Randall that I think President Putin has triggered a bunch, just a list of ramifications and consequences that he never saw coming, and that's one of them. I don't think he ever pictured that tens of thousands of Russians, granted predominantly young, but not exclusively. You have parents of Russian soldiers out in the streets say, I don't want my kid killed. So, and who would? But I think he's unleashed a boatload of consequences and ramifications that he never anticipated, among which some of which we mentioned, the real solidification of the Ukrainian identity, bringing to the surface this willingness for an entire population to see itself die with a gun in its hand rather than be run over, and the re-establishment, the reprioritization of NATO. Dare I even say the reunification of NATO, the reunification of Western Europe. I mean, this is no small thing. That's why I say when we're not too many derifications away from a full out European ground land war.
I would say it's more than that, because I think NATO was, for all Trump's bluster and frustrations, talking to friends who still work in kind of that field, whether it was journalism or State Department, a lot of our allies abroad kind of looked at Trump and went, we have to wait out 4 years, and let's just pray to God that he doesn't get reelected.
That it gets better or returns to some sense of normalcy.
What I think was more dangerous and what was more in doubt was, should America continue to lead NATO? And I think that was a real question in the mind of the allies. And I think
that's a fair question, because it seemed to be a breach that Germany and France were going to step into.
Yes.
And now no longer have to. We have absolutely reestablished ourselves as the flagship of NATO. And dare I say, by the way, the Canadians. Mm-hmm. I think the Canadians have been fiercely independent in the response to the Russian invasion, but yet a solid, not follower is the wrong word, a teammate, I guess you'd say, in NATO. They sent their own troops and they didn't have to be asked. They just sent it. They sent arms to Ukraine. They didn't have to be asked. They did it, and they did it forward thinking. They didn't do it first, but they did it. They didn't have to be asked. They didn't have to be begged. Germans had to be begged to do some things here.
And to be fair to Germany, Germany does have a legitimate problem.
Right.
They need Russian gas. It's like
they also have their own history to deal with. They have their own history to look at. It's not obviously
they could take that history
to borrow from Family Guy. They weren't on vacation for 6 years.
No,
they have their own history to deal with.
But they could take that history, and they had at certain times under Merkel, and avail themselves of saying, "Look, we made that mistake in the past, and we know the pitfalls of that very dark type of nationalism and populism." They could avail themselves of it, but the reality is that given that they share a continent with the Russians, the country that's going to lead NATO is not going to be on the European continent.
Nope, it's going to be in the North American one.
Yeah,
it's really it's us or the Canadians. The Canadians have shown themselves very, very well over the last 6 years, to be honest. They really, really have.
But even the Canadians do not have the military the size of the United States, and that's really
no.
Kind of
but I would,
but
the value system has shown itself.
But at the end of the day,
for me,
they're going to need the military hardware and the personnel.
267-227-9189. The line is open. We'll give you a few more minutes just in case. I thought a certain somebody from Central PA was gonna. I've been waiting for him to ring in since the Ukrainian talk started. I thought he would ring in. We didn't hear from
Do you
Christopher
want me to
tonight.
text him?
We didn't hear from Christopher tonight either. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. We'll give you a few more minutes.
I actually have not talked to him about this, and I am dying.
Which is strange for a teacher and a history teacher, and not to discuss this. That you guys haven't talked about this. It's kind of funny, or no, not haha funny, but kind of odd that you haven't.
Not just because he's Ukrainian, I'm interested, but my dad during the Cuban Missile Crisis lived in Willow Grove, and always not the microphone.
I do it all. I do it the whole show.
His elementary school in Willow Grove was right across the street from
the Biddle. Well, what is now the Biddle, Pennsylvania Air National Guard base, but it was a federal base.
It was a federal Air Force base, and he has vivid memories.
Biddle is technically in Horsham.
Yes.
The Willow Grove base still does exist, doesn't it? They're two different bases, aren't they? Or was that the Willow Grove base?
I can't remember. He moved so much as a kid. I don't remember if he was in Horsham or Willow Grove, but he was in Philly.
Right. Well, the air base that's in Horsham, because I work there, I drive by the damn thing every day. Which, by the way, the state of Pennsylvania seems to be putting money into, which I find very interesting, to rehab and not expand, but to rehab and refurbish and reestablish that Air National Guard base. It is a functioning Air National Guard base. It was an old federal Air Force base because the buildings go back to World War II. You can just tell by the architecture that they go back to World War II. But I don't think that was the Willow Grove Naval Air Station. Those are two different bases, I think.
It might have been Horsham.
I think those were two different places. But regardless, your bottom line is he went to school across 611, what is US 611, from an active military installation. Yeah.
And he used to tell me when I was little, he had vivid memories of watching the planes take off and land, during that crisis, and they were taking off and landing just constantly. And the teachers had actually drawn a line with paint across the playground. And all the kids were told that they weren't allowed to cross the line. It was because they had figured out that if the sirens went off, if they kept the kids on the side closest to the school, they could get them all into the building as soon as the sirens went off.
It is I went to high school, Phillipsburg, New Jersey, born and raised there, went all through public schools there. Phillipsburg High School, the front half of the school was built in the 20s. The bottom, back half, the building's actually shaped in a P if you look at it from overhead. One of these days I'll find a internet picture and put it up for you. It's a gorgeous building. The basement of our building still, even though it is now the middle school, they built a new high school in Phillipsburg. It is now the Phillipsburg Middle School, the old high school. Where we used to have shop classes, there was an auto shop, there was a wood shop, and the music room was in the basement. And at the top of the steps on the way to that basement was the radiation symbol. That was our fallout shelter, because Ingersoll Rand, which still was an active corporation at the time, and in the United States, can you imagine? Wow, manufacturing in the United States. Yeah, it was a pretty wild time, kids. People had jobs and money. It was like a real first-class country. Ingersoll Rand was a nuclear site. It was a target. It was a Soviet nuclear target, and we all knew it. And oh, by the way, Bethlehem Steel was another nuclear target. The entirety of the Lehigh Valley would have been ash. And I always found it interesting knowing what we knew about the effects of just one nuclear device being exploded over Phillipsburg. Us running to the basement of that high school wouldn't meant a damn thing.
That's exactly
And
what
I
he
always
told
thought
us.
it was so ridiculous. And I can remember too. So that was not, that movie came out in 1982.
Yeah, the
So
day
I was
after.
still in middle school. I think it was in 8th grade when it came out, or I was a freshman. I can't remember because I graduated in 87. 4 years was 83. It came out in 82. So yeah, I guess I was still in 8th grade.
The day after? Is that
The day after. And I remember some of the watching the news for weeks after it aired about how kids were going to school. Just they had schools and school districts and municipalities and how to bring counselors into schools.
Yeah.
Because there were students all across the country that were just panicked about what was going to happen to them. And I watched it just like everyone else, and I was fascinated with it. And it still airs occasionally to this day. I didn't find myself as deeply affected by it as some others. But it was eye-opening, and it only reinforced what I already thought, was that Ingersoll Rand got hit with a nuke. We were all toast. And so why were we running to the basement?
Well, that's
And
what-
why were we having, duck and cover drills? Because even as old as I am, it was at the end. We had a few duck and cover drills, not many, but there was a couple times that
we did
tensions,
too.
Cold War tensions rose, and we had some duck and cover drills. And it was just like, what is this going to do?
Yeah.
It was so, and I'm sure kids in the 50s said the same thing. Although I don't think, generally speaking, the population was as well educated about what an actual
Do you know
nuclear
what they-
explosion did. But
Do you
what
know
was a
what they
desk
told?
going to help you? What was it? I mean, it was.
Do you know what they told Dad when he was a kid that was for? They told him they were doing tornado drills.
Randall tells me in the chat that the Willow Grove U.S. Air Force Base, which I actually think is the Willow Grove Naval Air Station. I think it's the same thing we're talking about. I'm sure there was Air Force and Navy at the same, operating on the same base. There was an entire arm of B-52s
Yeah.
that were armed with nuclear weapons available there to take off at a moment's notice. So, but yeah, I mean, we're
Yeah, but
it's part of the
it's funny because it kind of,
it's part of the lost history of the Lehigh Valley that we were a big
well, in Philly too. Because
nuclear site
I think most,
or nuclear target, I should say.
22-year-olds living in Philadelphia or living in Willow Grove or Hatboro, Horsham or Fishtown are not thinking that, that city would have been wiped out. by
Well,
that.
obviously Philadelphia and was, as well as Camden, because it had a naval base. and not just a dock for ships, but they could build ships. They built naval vessels in Philadelphia and the port of Wilmington and Camden, here in the Lehigh Valley, like I said, Phillipsburg, Bethlehem, and I believe Mack Truck in Allentown, because Mack Truck could be converted over to make military vehicles. The entirety of the Lehigh Valley would have been ash, absolute just ash. And not to mention, and we were not just told that Ingersoll was we knew it was a nuclear target, but not just for one. Actually found out somewhere along the line that I think it was as many as 7 missiles were targeted at Ingersoll Rand. I don't think it would have took 7. I think one would have toasted us quite well.
Yeah.
But they were actually multiple missiles were targeted at Ingersoll and Bethlehem Steel.
There was an insane
and
number.
Mack Trucks. New York City was like
an
23.
insane number targeted at Bethlehem. I forget what the number was, but I saw.
Well, New
it
York City
once.
was like 23 warheads just for New York City. I think one would have just as well done it.
Yeah.
You really needed 23 warheads? You know, bombs with a yield that were already hundreds of times of what exploded over Hiroshima. You needed 23 of them over New York City. I think one would pretty much take care of it.
It was just. I think that's.
But at that point, you're talking
psychological
about.
terror.
Well, yeah, but at that point too, you're talking about both the United States and what would have then been the Soviet Union had tens of thousands of warheads. The United States still has roughly, again, if anybody knows differently, correct me if you wish. I think we're in the 2,500 range of warheads, nowhere near what we used to have. We used to have tens of thousands of them, and so did the Soviets. Now, the 2,500 that we have could still destroy the planet several times over. And there was always the old story, and that both countries, but this was always blamed on the Soviets, that they had the one nuclear weapon that was designed to go to the magnetic north pole. And with a significant enough nuclear explosion at magnetic north would have completely just thrown the planet, would just killed the planet and completely threw us out of whack. And it was the doomsday weapon. But then again, supposedly the US had one too.
Confirmed that they. But what's fascinating to me is, so I was born early 1984. I missed 83 by 2 days, and
I'm not going to tell you.
What?
You're born 3 years before I graduated high school.
Well,
That's
doesn't matter now.
Creepy, dude.
But anyway, it's always been.
And yet somehow I knew.
You knew.
And somehow
there's an infant out
I
there.
felt. Yes.
But
I haven't felt a presence like this since.
Even my brother, my younger brother, who's 3.5 years younger than me, it's a completely different mindset to grow up in. He has no memory of the Cold War. He wasn't old enough to remember any of those stories. I'm slightly old enough to remember, like, seeing the news story in the late 80s where soldiers in the Soviet Union almost mistook a flock of migrating geese and launched nuclear weapons. And I can remember seeing that on the news with my parents and being little and not understanding what that meant and asking them. And they kind of tried to explain it to me in a way that you can explain it to like a 5-year-old. And I remember they took us around that time, like first grade, they took us out in the hall and had us do what I realize now was probably a duck and cover drill. You know, having us crouch and cover our heads with our arms, along the wall, and we were supposed to keep our mouth open because of the change in pressure, and none of that would have mattered. But it was just it fascinates me that younger kids on this particular issue, while, as Laura said, they're very attuned and very aware on things like climate change, income inequality, affordable housing, healthcare, This is not on their radar at all. And we have two problems. One being that existed, before this and before Trump launched this new, we're going to update our nuclear missiles program. And that was that the arsenal was getting outdated. My college roommate's brother actually worked in one of those units when he was in the military, and they were still using floppy disks in like 2004 to run the programs.
Well, just
the
from
computer programs.
From a nuclear and radiation standpoint of safety, I'm not going to disagree that the updating or the upkeep of the arsenal isn't necessary. I mean, some of the missiles that these warheads were in were literally degrading and rotting from the radiation contained inside of them. So I understand that some of it had to be done, but the active development of new battlefield tactical nukes, and you can go on YouTube and still see some of the military film that has been declassified since of they did it in the American desert, like they always did, of a plane would come by, drop a nuke, the initial flash would go by, the initial winds and so on, and then you saw the mushroom cloud, because they did this one at night, which I thought was even more hilarious. And the piece of film that I'm remembering, I'd swear, was at night. And then in the light coming from the mushroom cloud, you see all these heads pop up, and it's American troops that were in trenches, and they come up and they're armed and they're running toward the mushroom cloud. And we had a whole series of testing in this country, and the Soviets did it too, of battlefield tactical nukes. These are Hiroshima strength, because they were meant to clear the battlefield for troops to come in and fight behind them. And this is what Trump authorized, the development, not the modernization, but the development of brand new series of brand new technologies, brand new, insert the proper word because I'm missing it right now.
No, but I know
battlefield tactical nukes that could be used in conjunction with conventional land warfare. It's almost comical.
It's insanity.
It's almost comical.
I mean, when you think, the thing that I think we need to think more about is that when we develop these technologies, we always try to rationalize it by saying we're doing it to protect ourselves, we're doing it to use it against the enemy. We knew that there were American troops in Dresden when we firebombed Dresden. We knew that there were some American troops who were going to be exposed to the explosion from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And when we had troops in Fallujah, we knew that they were there, or that some of them were there, when we dropped depleted uranium. And they're stuck down.
Phosphorus as well.
And white phosphorus.
And you know the story behind Dresden, of course. Dresden is a city in Germany. During World War II, it was the single most bombed city in all of Germany. And it was bombed repeatedly. It was quite literally bombed till there was nothing left. There was no building standing. There were no human beings there left in the city of Dresden pretty much at all anymore. And we continued to bomb it until it was basically flattened. Well, something that I had only learned obviously well after, and I think it might still be taught in school, I'm not sure. I think it was my dad, that told me this. Although I do think I did see it in a documentary eventually somewhere. I'm a terrible reader. I learn through documentaries. I love documentaries and I will watch them and I love them. That it was actually part of the Manhattan Project, because they wanted to have a city to compare the damage to. We dropped X numbers, X tens of thousands of ordnance on Dresden. They took detailed aerial photography of it and went into it after Germany had been taken and surveyed the damage. and then compared it to the damage at Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So it was a science experiment. It was a grand, glorified science experiment. There's something very twisted about that to me. And yet at the same time, I understand it. But there's something quite twisted about that to me.
The scale of it, yeah, because I think I'd also read that they were also bombing Dresden because of
Well, it was an industrial city.
it was an industrial city in the manufacturing.
But they had bombed it to the
But
point
the
where it was
extent
completely
that-
non-functional.
The extent to which they bombed it.
The few people that remained in the area, I remember seeing in maybe it was World at War. I don't think it was World at War. I think it was a separate documentary.
But that's
But
interesting.
the
because
folks, the few people who remained in the area were interviewed after it, and they said, we just didn't understand it. They just kept coming. Every night they came back. There was nothing left. There wasn't two bricks on top of each other, and they came back, and they came back, and they came back, and they came back. There wasn't even anything left to burn, and they came back, and they didn't understand it until I guess the Germans eventually realized that they were part of a grand experiment. And what is the
I think that's why
what is the Oppenheimer
people like
quote?
Oppenheimer are so disillusioned.
What
because
is the Oppenheimer quote that
I've
he as
become
he
death, destroyer of wars. He was
as
actually
he's watching the mushroom cloud and says, I have
he's
become
quoting
death. I have become death itself, the destroyer of worlds.
yeah, he's quoting a Greek philosopher.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's Aeschylus.
Is it, or is it Shakespeare?
I think it's a Greek philosopher.
I'll have to look that. I should look
But
it up. I'm very lazy about Googling things when I'm right on the air.
Yeah,
It's usually because I go silent and it's a radio program. You
That's
really can't go
interesting. I
silent.
did not know that little tidbit, but it does, because I always wondered, like, when you read in your history book goes X number of times more powerful than a conventional bomb. I used to think, well, how did they know that? Like, are they just doing the math?
I think probably originally it was partly the math. Yeah, I think the Hiroshima bomb was 10, same as roughly 10,000 tons of TNT, which is where you get your megaton. So the first atomic weapon was, and I don't know why we call them atomic compared to nuclear. I don't know the difference. You split an atom, you split a nucleus. It's essentially the same thing.
I think they're interchangeable.
But that's where you get your 1 megaton. So the Hiroshima bomb was 1 megaton, and that's when they became the hydrogen bomb was 1,000 megatons. And I think most people would probably remember the story. The Soviets did it, and the United States did it. They tested a hydrogen bomb, and they couldn't stop the reaction. Took it out to the Pacific, tested it, and it was infinitely more powerful and destructive than any of the scientists thought. And as the explosion is expanding, they realized that the actual nuclear reaction was still going. And it eventually burnt itself out. But that is why we don't, I'm certain the United States still has hydrogen bombs, but we didn't continue to make them at the same pace because they couldn't control it. They couldn't control it. And the Soviets did the same thing. Like, we'll control it, and they couldn't control it either. It only burnt itself out because it ran out of fuel, but it continued.
And you go to a lot
It
of
turned the Earth into a sun.
go to a lot of these Pacific islands and those Pacific
gone.
populations, and they're either gone or
And they're still irradiated. Where the hydrogen
they're
bomb was, they're still
dealing with-
irradiated.
you know, a lot of those populations in some of those places and the inhabited islands are still dealing with massive waves of cancer.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. If they're not being washed under the ocean, but that's a different topic or a different day. I don't know that anybody's going to ring us in the last 3 minutes. George is going to kill me for going over 3 hours. Although I think I went over 3 hours last week and he converted rather quickly. So maybe we will have good bandwidth and he will convert rather quickly
I hope so.
tonight. We had a green shield the whole night, George.
Woohoo.
So 827-267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Let me also remind you, if we could please, call your legislators. Go to local offices. Run for office. Run for party positions. be part of the process. Politics is only as good, it is only as clean, it is only as transparent as you make it. President Kennedy told us that politics can and should be a noble profession. And I continue to believe that it can and should be. And it only becomes that way with the quality of people that are involved in it. So I ask you to do that. Become a precinct committee person, run for your county committee, run for your municipal committee, run for your state committee, anywhere in this country. And if you're listening to us, outside the United States, if you're in the UK, become part of your Labour Party. If you're in, in the Scandinavia, your Social Democratic Party, whatever it might be. I think in Australia, it's the Labour Party as well. But become part of the process. We need involvement globally. If we're going to return any sense of economic justice and fairness and equality, then become part of the process. I ask you to please do that, to please consider it, and please do it. George, do you have anything that you would like to add other than the fact that you're going to kill me for going over 3 hours?
I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to let you convert the show yourself. And then you're going to figure it out. You're going to be like, oh, maybe I should keep it to 2 hours.
You know what? You are going to try to do that. And halfway through trying to explain it to me, you're going to give up.
No, because what I'm going to do, is I'm going to create a shock booth, and you're going to be hooked up to the shock booth.
Oh,
then,
yeah.
Don't
go in the
shocks will
candy
continue
cabinet
for 2.5 hours when you try to convert the show. You'll be and you'll
don't go or we're getting to 8 o'clock. There's a little shock. Shocks get more and more intense as we get closer and closer to the 3 hour mark.
That's actually a very good idea.
You're welcome that I gave that to you.
The remote,
now you have to rig it up.
No, I'll definitely rig it up. There you go. I'll give it to Kristen. There you go.
Yeah.
Kristen, give him a shot.
Yeah, when she gets mad.
He's going over.
That will do it for us. It is 8:30. That will do it for us here for this week. You have been watching and listening to the Kennedy Effect live for the 27th of February, 2022. To every single person, every single group, page, all of you who might find us on Twitter, our YouTube people, wherever you find us, every group, every page, every single individual. Thank you, and thank you. We could not be here without you. For associate technical producer Lynn Dare, for George Dare and his cats, for DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and everyone at hot101.net, for the entire TCP family, for my sister from a different mister, that was easy for me to say, and the woman who is, I will continue to say is responsible for unleashing me upon you and really helping me get this show started, really almost single-handedly getting this show started. April, Riddick, and of course, for my much better half, Kristen, for being here. I am Jeff Kennedy. Thank you for being here. Please, I beg you, take care of yourselves and each other. Please be kind to one another and just take care. Just stay safe. Take care of each other. Spring is coming. We will be back with you next week, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Brian Sims is our guest. We hope you will be here. We hope you will call. Keep your comments coming, and so on and so on. Please remember the Facebook page is always there. The show might be ending in the next couple seconds, but the Facebook page is always there. Come join us at our Facebook page. See the articles that we post. Talk to us. Interact with us. So on and so on and so on. You get the drill. We need you. We can't do without you. Please take care of yourselves and each other. We will see you next week. For now, good night.